All right. Well, in light of the fact that like the clones remain a nagging issue in the U.S. Sort of politics, but I'd like to talk about now. It's now been officially 1 week of Trump in the White House, and I guess we should probably talk about some of the signature Trump policies and sort of executive orders that we've seen so far. So starting with the list of on immigration.
They're rounding up Native Americans to send them back here. They're actually doing it.
He deployed 1,500 active duty troops to the southern border. In a memo signed Thursday night by the acting head of Homeland Security Department, offers ICE officials a roadmap on how to use expansive powers that were long reserved only for encounters at the southern border to quickly remove migrants. It also appears to give officials the ability to expel migrants in two major Biden era programs that have allowed more than 1 million people to enter the country temporarily. There is the Laken-Riley Act, which is directs authorities to deport immigrants who are accused, though not yet convicted, of specific crimes. Go down the list here, and then teasing the end of birthright citizenship and another travel ban. And then in terms of the administrative state, there's a hiring freeze across the federal government that would remain in place pending the completion of a broader plan for reducing the federal workforce. The end, of course, of DEI and the DEI programs, and then end policing supervision. The Justice Department has ordered an immediate halt to all new civil rights cases or investigations and signaled it might back out of Biden-era agreements with police departments that engaged in discrimination or violence. There's the delay of the TikTok bans. On foreign policy, he's designated Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations, has left the World Health Organization and left the Paris Climate Agreements, and also the tariff war as well that we're seeing heat up. Now,
in the Gulf of America.
The Gulf of America.
Did you get that? In Mount McKinley? People just want to honor William McKinley. He's very important. It's the only time you ever hear about him. Guy got shot and they gave him a mountain, and he's just the mountain guy. And I guess he did support tariffs.
I want to get to the tariffs in a second, but obviously, not many surprises here. We're seeing ICE raids in Chicago and elsewhere. But I guess my question here is, does this feel different than the first Trump administration? The ICE raids and roundups that were going on in his first couple months in office the first time around. But is there reason to believe that this feels different this time around, or that this is markedly more menacing or evil? Is he more unrestrained?
I was talking with someone about this the other week, that the only real difference, the only thing that is sort of uncanny and strange about this is that he has the regular honeymoon period that all newly inaugurated presidents have. And that's a very, very weird territory for him, because we're so used to him being underwater as far as approval ratings. I do think that all the stuff we're seeing is mostly a repeat or a continuation, or what is to be expected. But I also think that even sans the resistance, that things are more or less going to revert to mean with him, in that sooner or later, Biden had a higher approvals during his honeymoon period. People forget. And things are sort of set up for Trump in such a way that any single thing could be the start of an unraveling, whether it is trying and failing to broker a deal with Russia, which Russia does not seem that interested in the terms that he's laid out. A major failure on the world stage like that could be the start of an unraveling. It could be, this flash market crash we're seeing now, or the inflation that comes with tariffs and, obliterating America's supply of low wage labor.
In bird flu.
Yeah. And
rounding up agricultural laborers and sending them all around.
Yeah.
Making them travel all over the country, putting them all together in a dirty camp.
The thing is, the usual Trump spiral we're used to, it hasn't happened yet, because all of his most boneheaded decisions, policy-wise and personnel-wise, and the sort of atmosphere of chaos where everyone is getting fired and turning on each other, and no one trusts each other, and there's all this backbiting and recriminations. That happens when he's, defensive. And he hasn't had a reason to feel that yet. But when there is like, I don't think it's going to be a singular Afghanistan type thing, but probably just like a bunch of fuck ups in different corners adding up. That is when it's going to start, and that will be weird territory because he will sort of revert to being very underwater, but there won't be a resistance industrial complex.
Yeah, and he also doesn't have as many disloyal people in his administration that he can blame this time because he's going to have the same sort of problems where he runs up against stuff getting held up in court, having to deal with like the Department of Justice and all these internal checks and stuff, having to root out traitors and stuff. And like in the Oval Office, he doesn't really have anybody that's like lib coded or that hasn't just shown nothing but loyalty to him for 4 years straight. He's only got those people, so it's going to be kind of harder. Like he doesn't have Omarosa there that he can just pin shit on. Like I don't know. It seems like he's going to run into problems where he's probably going to throw JD Vance under the bus, probably Elon Musk, probably we're already seeing Vivek being thrown under the bus. But all those people, they're like incredibly loyal to him. So it's going to be kind of difficult, and it might split the MAGA world a little bit when he does that.
Well, he already sided with Elon and Doge over the H-1 visa program, and like we've talked about that before. It's like the first interesting sort of zone of fracture or tension in the MAGA coalition. But just to sort of go off what Felix said, I guess like what feels different this time is both a media honeymoon that's treating him like like the way they do other presidents, but also just like like the absence of the quote resistance, but also a Democratic Party that I think has taken this election to be a basically like a Reagan Mondale level mandate for Donald Trump. I mean, it's just like I think they're reacting to this loss in a way that like the idea that Trump just absolutely killed them and not that they just lost it. You know what I mean? Like it's the difference between like getting beat and like just giving it up. And I think like the difference here is that like we're seeing a lot of like Democrats try to like sort of weasel their way into supporting him, particularly the things on the like the immigration enforcement and deportations and things like that. But like I guess what feels different now is it seems like the media and the Democratic Party are treating this election like it was a huge blowout and that Trump has some sort of huge mandate and is overwhelmingly popular.
Yeah, like people have moved to the right. The voter base has moved to the right a little bit on certain issues. That has actually happened, but it's easy to overestimate that, especially when you're looking at Twitter when it's controlled by Elon Musk, or you're looking at like media that's filtered through the tech algorithm, and those guys are all like courtiers for him now. They're all just at Mar-a-Lago trying to win favor from him. So it's easy to overestimate and think like, well, I guess everybody's just racist now. I guess everybody's just like this, but it's still just not that many people. It's just only not even a majority, really. It's just become normalized, sort of, and the people fighting back against it are tired.
Yeah, I know, Alex. It's that sense of fatigue. People just, I think, like there's such a pervasive sense of just demoralization, not just in terms that like Trump is president again, but like I think if there's anything productive, I think it's that like many voters are just furious at the Democratic Party for just losing this election.
Yeah, they ran a senile guy.
Yeah,
and we could all tell he was senile, and they replaced him 2 months before the election, and that's why they lost. That's really the main reason why they lost.
That was what I was going to bring up. If you guys saw the that Shannon Watts lady talking about
who is she again?
She's the like what's her group? Everytown, I think. It's like a gun control thing.
Okay.
Yeah, she did a pretty by the books annoying NGO liberal. I think she did something like vaguely blame Bernie for Sandy Hook at one point in 2016.
Right.
But because he said you couldn't sue gun manufacturers for shootings, which does seem kind of crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, but she made a post today about how demoralized she felt by the direction of the Democratic Party, basically along the lines of everything that we've said, that they are treating this like very narrow win like it is a 1984 style realignment, and just how directionless and shitty the party seems, and how they feel like there's no future in it, which I thought was notable. I don't really think that augurs, the creation of an American Labor Party or anything like that. I think like sooner or later, some ambitious Democrat will figure out the exact right balance of like liberalism and I guess not using NGO language and like capture the hearts of these people. But for now, it is interesting that the Democratic Party is sort of, they're replaying the thing that they did in 2016, where they're laying the blame at the feet of the remaining left of the party and like progressive NGOs. And it's not quite like 2016 where they tried that and it fell flat. It's more like they're just talking to each other. No one else cares. The people doing this are the only people that seem to believe that there is any future in the Democratic Party to care about. Everyone else is checked out.
Yeah, like when I see like Matt Yglesias, who's probably like the most prominent voice of what you're talking about. I just noticed that there's like less of an instinct to yell at him or make fun of him, because it all just seems so not pointless. It just seems so redundant. I mean, like every time these guys open their mouths, they indict themselves further. There's just no real reason to argue these points like there was in 2016. Even though we live in this like perpetual 2016, it really does seem like that's running out of gas, because like you can't do 2016, then 2020, then 2024 again, saying the same things over and over again. I mean, it's just like there's no point in arguing about this anymore.
Yeah, they're just coping.
Yeah,
they're just posting cope because they can't actually criticize the content of the Democratic Party or the actual platform. So there just has to be some sort of convenient explanation, like the groups are they did it. There's just some small niche community that's infecting the Democratic Party, which is perfect and it's fine and it's great. And someone just stabbed us in the back in a way that means we don't actually have to change anything about the platform.
I guess like another difference between 2016 and 2024 is that, at least on foreign policy, like I think a lot of this cope and a lot of the kind of triumphalism and sort of intimidation being done by MAGA right now, it can't be divorced from the fact that the United States, in terms of foreign policy, has never been weaker. Like, I mean, like this is coming on the heels of a number of big, like, I don't know, roadblocks to U.S. hegemony. Like, for instance, the Russia-Ukraine war, which I think by everyone by this point knows is not going to end on terms favorable for the Ukrainian side. There is, of course, Gaza as well. In southern Lebanon, we've seen thousands and thousands of people returning to northern Gaza and also South Lebanon today, which is, like totally contrary to the as we've talked about with Mohammed, the goals of the Israeli state. And then also the AI. I mean, we just had Ed Zitron on today. The news everyone's talking about today is the Chinese AI DeepSeek that has just liquidated about $1 trillion in value from the American AI sector, because it's open source, cheap, and does everything American AI or LLGMs or whatever you call them do.
LLMs.
Large language models do, but a billion times better. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about from this week is the trade wars, the possibility of trade wars, like imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico. And then this recent spat with Gustavo Petro, the president of Colombia. Did you see Petro's very lengthy Twitter post in reply to Donald Trump?
I've been very impressed by Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico, but I really liked Petro's post. This was like all the long posts that we see nowadays. It's a business guy who's like explaining why you should sleep at your job and only get married when you're 51 if you want to get ahead. I haven't seen a long post that has some blood in it in a long time, but Gustavo Petro produced probably the first good long post in 3 years, at least.
I like when he opened it by saying he doesn't like visiting the United States because it's boring, and then he says, "I confess that I like Walt Whitman, Paul Simon, and Noam Chomsky and Miller." I don't know what Miller is. I think Arthur Miller, maybe. I don't know what Miller
Probably.
is. Steve Miller,
Glenn Miller. Hopefully not Stephen Miller.
Jason Miller.
Yeah,
shout out to a friend of the show, Jason Miller, who had
nothing negative to say about that guy.
Yeah.
Nothing but respect for him.
Well, I have to shout out Jason Miller because he did make my favorite post of the Trump inauguration, which was he was like, I dare Anna Wintour of Vogue to put Usha Vance on the cover of her magazine. And I was I love
She
it.
doesn't. Isn't she like 95?
Usha Vance?
No.
Anna Wintour. Yeah.
She's got to be. So. Is she even running the magazine?
Oh yeah, she's still around. But
I
no,
guess she's only 75.
Vogue should do just like a fashion issue for all the beautiful, fashionable women of the Trump administration.
Yeah, there should be
Maybe
a MAGA fashion magazine.
Yeah,
and a MAGA Sports Illustrated.
Yep, MAGA Maxim, bring that back.
MAGA Maxim.
There is like a based women's magazine that they started. They started in 2020, and it's like, it's like those we need to bring back beauty type women. It's for those.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I haven't seen it in the wild. I haven't seen anyone accidentally buy it in an airport yet. But
what's it called?
It's not Elle because that's an existing non-based woman's magazine, a woke one.
They tried to call it Bitch Magazine, but it was taken.
It's called something.
It's called Mrs. Magazine.
Yeah, Mrs. Magazine.
It's called something like Eros or
Vitalis,
something like that.
Yeah,
something fancy.
Yeah.
Eros Unbound. Artemis's Revenge.
I believe it is Evie Magazine, EVIE, a politically conservative American women's magazine. Founded
it's named after the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Here's another thing I want to talk about. Talking about Trump, but I did notice this one thing from a CNN article. Headline here: Democrats grapple with their own message in Trump 2.0. And, this is speaking about, like how the leaders of the party are sort of attempting to reshape their brand or refine their messaging in light of, what they of a crushing defeat. But there is, it says here, top Democrats like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries has been urging members to stick to substantive policy differences rather than personality clashes and social media clapbacks with a man who won the popular vote. But there remains internal tension in the party about where to draw the line on Trump. Democrats in Trump One turf are traveling to Mar-a-Lago and voting for GOP bills on immigration and trans athletes, while others are protesting his inauguration and grilling his cabinet picks in made-for-TV moments. But there's this one section here that really caught my eye. It says here, in a private Senate Democratic luncheon last week, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey led colleagues through the shifting dynamics of a media echo chamber that conservatives are thriving in. Democrats scoured examples of how conspiracy theories like the one about Haitian immigrants eating pets in Springfield, Ohio. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
What happened to that, by the way? Did they stop?
Yes, they did.
Because you haven't heard about that. They must have stopped.
Well, it got cold out, so they brought the pets inside. So
you don't have to kill the cats and dogs. You just find them frozen. It's like getting a pound of frozen beef.
Spread rapidly in the conservative media sphere and how Democrats needed to try to harness their own tools to get their messages out better. One of the bright spots Democrats highlighted, according to a source familiar, was a viral video from the pandemic of Virginia Senator Mark Warner making a tuna melt in his kitchen that led to the lawmaker being cheered and jeered by people who questioned his culinary leanings. The communications ecosystem.
That was like 4 years ago.
I don't even remember this.
No, what the fuck are you even talking about?
When this article was shared by CNN, they referred to the tuna melt as the unforgettable Mark Warner tuna melt moment.
I forgot it.
I bring this up because I feel like I'm someone who, to an unhealthy degree, follows Democratic politics and online politics, and I had no fucking clue what the viral tuna melt moment was referring to. Felix, do you remember this?
No, I've never heard of this. And even if I had an Instagram live from 5 fucking years ago, that's it. You're in a meeting with like fucking Dracula and David Geffen, and you're like, how do we unfuck up this shitty party? Do you remember 5 years ago when Mark Warner made a tuna melt?
Like that's only reaching people who are already hyper invested in Democratic politics. What is that accomplishing? Like you look cool to politicos who are like that's only really impressing people in DC who follow politics for a living. And even then it's only a few of them who are like, I love the Democrats. Any Democrat doing anything, they're awesome. They're my dad.
I want you to imagine someone who not only follows Mark Warner on Instagram, but sees that he has gone live and goes, ooh, let me click on that.
Well, it might have been a hate watcher.
Yeah.
No, he's he's so bad at tuna melts. I hate him.
Yeah. He's like, Mark Warner was like Darkside Phil during the pandemic.
Yeah, people would just be fucking with him all day.
Yeah, he got swatted every day. He got caught jacking off on live.
Yeah, he jacked off into a tuna melt.
That's the secret ingredient.
That is why it was controversial.
Yeah, I know. So I just Googled Mark Warner tuna melt, and the first result is a YouTube video titled Senator Mark Warner's Tuna Melt Atrocity.
Come on.
And Axios, remembering Senator Mark Warner's tuna melt 4 years later. It says 4 years ago today, Virginia Senator Mark Warner scoured the internet so much with his heinous tuna melt video that Vice President Kamala Harris got him on Instagram Live to help right his wrongs. It was the second month of the COVID pandemic. Harris wasn't VP yet, and Warner's post was secretly a PSA to wash your hands for 20 seconds to avoid spreading germs. But there were a lot of wrongs. He didn't toast the bread, used ungodly globs of mayonnaise, and not even Duke's mayo, didn't drain the tuna, and then microwaved the sandwich. Oh my God, he made a tuna melt in the microwave. Okay, so this is even worse than so in their meeting, they're like, how can we counter the viral racist demagoguery that alleges that immigrants are, cannibalizing pets? I know a video of Virginia Senator Mark Warner making a sandwich badly.
Yeah, it's such it really is like Twitter journalist type shit. To get in cooking arguments or getting in fake angry arguments with about which city has the best pizza or something.
God,
or pineapple, I would fucking fight anyone who likes pineapple on pizza. It's appealing to those type of people.
If you don't put salt in your pasta water, you're a horrible person.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
People who are
fucking dog shit.
People who are extremely proud that they know how to do basic cooking and they want to let you know all the time.
Yeah, it's a very halfway. It's a very halfway house style of posting.
Yeah. Fuck it. This tuna melt is God. This is an atrocity. Jesus, I can just imagine the person. They probably they write for Axios or Politico or some newspaper in DC, and that's what they pretend to get mad about because they can't get in an actual argument because that feels bad. So they just have fake arguments with their friends about food and food condiments and topics and shit. And it's just excruciating to read that. It sucks.
All right. Best of luck, curating the next viral sandwich moment for the Democrats as they tweak their messaging.
They should just make the worst cooking possible. I mean, honestly, if they're going to do that, they should make Mind of Jason meals.
An eggshell, eggshell bowl.
Different parts of a pig where you can't really tell what it is. It's not the part you want to eat, but it is part
boiled
of a pig.
Bananas.
You just you put that in a big pot. You put some eggshells in there. You boil it for 72 hours. Maybe you put some baby powder on top, and then you just make that on Instagram, and it will go viral. It will get some people getting mad about it. If you make it nasty enough, it will repulse normal people. And not just people who pretend to get mad about sandwiches for clout. Or just cook poop. What if a senator cooked poop on the stove? That would get a lot of views. If he just put a piece of poop in a pan and just cooked it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Senator Chuck Schumer, and I'm making a Schumer family delight this evening.
I call this Chuck roast. And it's a big poop. It's a big poop I put on the stove and I turn it on and I leave the house.
You're gonna want to braise this for about 3 hours. And then,
I cook this to troll my wife.
This is Guy's meal when the wife's out of town. Big bowl of poop. Big bowl of poop.
Bachelor chow.
Yeah.
But stuff like that would get a lot of views.
The eat shit challenge. Let's juice this. Let's get it viral.
Yeah, why not? Who cares? But they're afraid of being embarrassed. They're embarrassed every day.
But before we get to the movie roundup, this has been obviously a very busy news week in our nation's capital, and certainly today has been very busy in the nation's capital because I guess this week has seen confirmation hearings. We got RFK, we've got Kash Patel, we've got Tulsi Gabbard, we got some of the real gems of the incoming Trump administration making their case to the American public. But we've also had a sort of the announcement of an executive order by Donald Trump and his new administration that would essentially upend the entire function of the federal government by declaring that all money that has been allocated, or grant money that has been allocated by the previous Congress, could be just frozen, basically, by fiat. That's since been walked back. But basically, were it to be taken seriously, the executive order would have covered a cease in funding to Medicaid, SNAP, school meals, WIC, Head Start, child care block grants, Pell Grants, student loans, housing vouchers, et cetera, et cetera. You get the picture here. And then today, as Trump and Musk and Doge and everyone begins the work of basically gutting the federal government and privatizing all public services, this nation experiences the worst aviation disaster it's had since 9/11, practically.
If you're Pete Hegseth, it's okay to have a Mark Tower today. It's the first few days of the job, and look what no one would.
No one's expecting too much, No
one would blame you if you had to relax with a couple Mark Towers right now.
And yet another Mark Tower. It was so much fun.
I think it would be better if you're loose.
Well, I mean, also, you guys, it's DEI. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
Look, you should see the guy he has to work with. He's getting peanut butter and jam all over the fucking controls.
Yeah, I actually heard that the guy who was supposed to be doing helicopters that day, he was an otherkin. And he thought he was a dragon and he could fly into the helicopter to stop it. This week, I don't know. We talked a lot about, before the inauguration, how there is a difference in character and tone and tenor, not with Trump or his people, but with the rest of the world against it this time versus last time. And that's because the resistance, which we have pointed out was sort of like a historical aberration that only existed because of a very specific time and place in media at the time. It's not there. And I was very curious to see how all of this would go without that. And there was a lot of fear casting for people who were afraid that Trump would achieve this type of Reagan status where he guts everything but is lionized, because he already did make kind of an incredible comeback, and he has had positive numbers, better numbers than he's ever had in his career. But anyone who is afraid of that, I think this week has kind of dispelled that, because it is the most familiar Trump one pattern that I've ever seen. You do something incredibly unpopular, then you send your bewildered shithead press secretary out there to go, actually, we're not doing that, but we are. And if you don't think we're doing that, you're wrong. But how dare you think we're doing that? So you have an unpopular policy that you annoy everyone with a battery of uncertain takebacks, and no, we didn't take that back. Very, very reminiscent of all the most unpopular Trump policies in its first 90 days, the first time. And now this, a horrible disaster. And then he goes out there and he says, we have a lot of opinions on what happened, and I'm going to say those opinions.
Okay.
The federal government is a land of contrasts. Okay. So the first time, I think he was trying to do big dynamic things with the Muslim ban, and then it proved to be incredibly unpopular, and he really wants to be popular, really badly. And so it got struck down, walked back. I mean, it fell apart. And then my theory is that he used constant turnover as an excuse to be a lame duck. He could just kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
But this time, I think he brought in a whole bunch of people who, a few of them are children. He's doing DEI inclusion for his cabinet. And then
Gripers have been obsessed with DEI pilots for like years now. Like basically the idea that any like non-white person is flying a plane. This is something that you only know about if you're a griper. So this proves to me that like woke caused the plane crashes. It proved to me that like basically 20-year-olds are running this administration.
Yes, and it's not going well. But I think this is another situation where he could have it both ways, where he could get struck down before it like really screws over enough people to create a backlash, just potentially. And then he could say, well, I tried, but these people are, and then he gets to do that.
Well, and then he can get credit for like rescinding it. And like when the people's Medicaid comes back, they'll be like, Trump gave you your wonderful Medicaid. We took it away, but we gave it back.
And then I like that, like, he's to the point where I think the people he's appointed kind of don't know what's in like executive order power or whatever. I mean, well, I guess without saying, never mind, they don't. But I like the fact that the Supreme Court, like a very conservative Supreme Court, is like, no, you're not doing that. I can imagine like these old fucking like goblins crawling out of the sewers being like, we can't allow this.
Because he is saying like, okay, the last bits of post-war prosperity, that's all gay. I hate it. Light it on fire.
Hey, it was based the 20s.
Yeah. I mean,
the 30s, not so much, but.
Well, that's because DEI.
Yeah.
I do agree a little bit with the idea that, like, I think Trump, there is a floor built in with his unpopularity. The floor is, like, lower than you would like it to be, but I think it's rough. It's about what it was for Bush, too.
Yeah, it's so small business owners, like people who aren't affected, people who are not currently like on any kind of public assistance. And pensioners that like, God, I don't know why I'm British right now, but they're people old enough to have like an actual
people waiting
pension.
In the queue.
Yeah. But people who are old enough from an era where they had an actual pension and who also have Social Security, like just being like, I never needed any help at all. All I did was join the military and collect Social Security. Like people who completely dissociate any kind of like public program with that. Like that's still a lot of people. And it's going to take a while for like, the Ski-Doo salesman, like those people to feel any hurt from it. But they will.
Yeah. I think that like the floor is around like Bush 2 numbers, probably a little lower because there are just fewer of those people. Fewer older,
well, he doesn't have a 9/11 either, like which
right.
really galvanized people.
But the sort of numbers for Bush in like 2008, like high 20s, low 30s. I think like that's his floor. I think he is lucky in the sense that like a lot of the energy that would have otherwise gone to hating him and, the stuff that like generally made him fuck up the most the first time and caused all like the defensive fuck ups and the personnel turnover and recriminations, that seems to be going towards Elon Musk, who has gone from like Obama type numbers for over a fucking decade to what Trump's numbers were in like 2018. Mm-hmm. But I do think that like this another thing we talked about with Trump 1 after like he tried these big sweeping things and they got struck down and he failed to repeal Obamacare and only really passed that one big tax cut, that his biggest problem politically, besides like being broadly hated and galvanizing CIA Democrats, was that the administration around 2019 wasn't about anything. And COVID, in fact, probably helped him more than anything because it gave him something to be about. And I think they're running headlong into that problem now.
Yeah, he needs a 9/11. He needs a COVID.
Yeah,
I feel like I think
even more difficult for him is that their House majority is it's one bad Boeing flight away.
One thing I want to note about this is you remember back when Biden was president, and like he had a certain style of like whenever he was called to have to acknowledge some glaring failure of our government and society, he would always like adopt this tone of being like, hey Jack, listen, I want to talk to who's in charge here. We got to sort this. Someone needs to sort this out. But Trump has his own way of responding, and I love this this note from Trump on Truth Social today about the plane crash. Trump writes, "The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't
because
the control
Coco
tower
Melon was on.
Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it could have been prevented. Not good." I love that, but like what I like about the woke plane crash is that, like, look, to small-minded sort of midwit people, this looks like a plane crash, okay? But to seers like myself who have built up a resistance to psyops and can see through the codes of the Matrix, this is not a plane crash. We know what it is. It's a humiliation ritual. And in the coming years, as more planes fall out of the sky, bridges collapse, and another disease ravages the country, and basic goods and services completely fall apart, just know that every time that happens, it's a conspiracy. It's a humiliation ritual. It's a conspiracy being directed at the government, not being run by the government. Conspiracies are now things that people try to do to the government to make Trump look bad, as opposed to 2 weeks ago when there were things that the government were doing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Just on that Trump post, it's so funny to be the president overseeing the worst military civilian air disaster that anybody can remember, and talking about it like your hometown QB missed a wide open wide receiver.
Yeah.
He was wide open. Why didn't he make that throw?
It reminds me of the post that Ninja had when that kicker missed the field goal.
Yeah,
where he's like,
yeah,
if I
yeah.
was a kicker, I'd never miss a field goal because I'd be practicing how to kick all the time.
Well, you know what it was? He was Mark Wahlberging.
We'll get to that, Amber. We'll get to that.
Little preview.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was interesting to see the dual responses from Trump and Vance, because Trump's was, I mean, if the stuff over like the funding freeze gave you some Trump one flashbacks, you would especially get them during the press conference where he says, "Well, we don't know what happened, but we're going to say our opinion now," and also, and also, they fucked up the transportation department so bad, et cetera. It's like the type of thing that like actually did turn off suburbanites the last time before this. But then JD Vance, like the new face of cool national conservatism, was, I guess, his way to spin this is saying that like the traffic controllers, of which there were like 7 guys working the jobs of 30 people because of the brutal austerity that we've instituted, they're stressed out because they have to work with all these furries that all the white people hired.
Yeah, no, and then Trump also said, he reassured all Americans that it's totally safe to fly and we have the safest commercial aviation in the world. So it's like, what's going on?
We're still waiting for all the facts, but also here's what happened. And it was terrible, but also it's fine. Just boom, boom, boom.
And look, like whether it comes to like an executive order essentially completely abrogating the Constitution and like a totally not legal executive orders, and then they say, "Oh, this is what we're doing. Oh, then we're not doing it. Oh, I guess we couldn't do it. Sorry, but hey, we're still kind of going to do it." It looks very amateurish and buffoonish, but like I don't think we should be too distracted by that, because I think like this is the go fast, break stuff approach. And when Trump was just reelected, the word I used was vandalism, and like now begins a 40-year process of looting and vandalizing the public sector as much as possible to eviscerate the provision of any good or services.
See, but that's where first of all, the death by 1,000 cuts was already working, and it had a lot of Democrat support. Look at the fucking post office, and you know what? It was smart. They were boiling a frog, and you can't now. You're doing smash and grab.
Yeah,
and you get the Skeksis from the fucking Supreme Court, like being like, "You're too full of beans," and it's a bad acceleration. It's just you could just slowly screw people over and just continue the legacy of slowly screwing people over. He would have been fine.
Well, like the very disheartening thing about that And like, I do agree that it's like, I don't think that they're going to be entirely successful just because like they seem completely determined at torching any and all goodwill that they have and returning to a Trump one environment where they're broadly and widely hated. But I do think that one of the big problems is that the Democrats have annihilated any capability or credibility for their party to oppose austerity to the point that it was right in front of them, the most dramatic and unpopular austerity regime potentially in almost 100 fucking years since Hoover was dropped in their lap. And their response was, it was Ted Lieu going, we should look after programs that help opiate addicts because that's what Trump people are.
Did you see Hakeem Jeffries' post?
And Schumer going,
people are aroused.
People are aroused.
People are more aroused than they've ever been.
And then fucking Fetterman going, well, you guys in the media want us to freak out about this, but we're not. And then the next day he was like, it turns out that 98% of Pennsylvanians rely on these programs.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And I wanted to shout out the House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries' post. Really, feel like you're like being given a gift wrap by these fucking bozos. And his response was, "Don't worry, everybody. God is still on the throne." Yeah. Thanks, asshole.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'll send it right upstairs to the big man.
Yeah. And it's like, I obviously, like, in the best of all worlds, there would be an opposition party that, is in favor of, like, nationalizing the healthcare system and a complete regulatory overhaul regime and all these things. Mm-hmm. But even not in that way, even with the shitty opposition party we have, this is the only one in the world besides maybe UK Labour now or under the Miliband's that could blow an austerity gift like this so badly.
Yeah.
Because they do not remember what that is and that they're supposed to be against it. They have completely lost that. They spent the entire campaign talking about an article where John Kelly says that Trump is bad. They've forgotten all of it. They are trying. They internalized everything for the last 8 years, and the conclusion they landed on with this, like, the group stuff is, okay, so we were wrong to use identity politics as a cudgel against Bernie. So we have to do like vulgar class reductionism, but without any economics. So you land on this thing where you're like, I'm normal and I'm having a beer and programs are gay. I don't care about austerity. Go Israel.
Hey, everybody. Have you noticed that things are extra retarded nowadays? I said it.
Yeah. Isn't it cool how I just started saying this in 2024 now that people won't yell at me?
And it's by the way, it's so funny that whether they're like, sorry to bring him up again, but Matty Iglesias was like, it's time to throw Biden under the bus. You think? You think so, Doctor? Oh, yeah. He's no longer president.
Thanks, Matt. That's really brave. Now maybe he won't run in 2028, you fucking fat shithead.
The rise of the dirtbag wonks.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's so funny about this, someone replied to me about this, about Maddie. It's just like, you remember like when the teacher would leave the classroom and then someone would get their muster up and just being like, hey, I think teacher's a jerk. And then look around, like, just like, wait till the teacher's out of the class before you start your little critique of them. But I think what's going on here, and Felix, I think you hit the nail on the head with a comment you made earlier this week about how, look, they're going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And Amber, I think you're right that if they were smarter, they would simply smother the baby with a pillow rather than poison it outright, because that's hard to find on an autopsy. But the thing is, like, we know what the goal is. Like, the goal has been the same, whether it's MAGA or George W. Bush or his dad, George H.W. Bush. Like, the goal is the same. It is to get rid of programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and privatize everything else. And then when understandable disasters occur as a result of that, blame it on black people, blame it on woke and DEI.
Yeah.
And like I know if you like only interact with politics through the internet, this seems like, well, of course they're going to get away with it. Look how cooked everyone's brain is. But like this is a self-selected group of, especially on Twitter now, which is just like, a school shooting generating machine. But the thing is, like, as I said, I'm confident they will fuck this up. And the thing is, as you put it out, Felix, universal programs like Social Security are impossible to get rid of, or very hard to, then they are going to try, don't get me wrong. But like once people
Social Security will be like the very they need
that's like, because of that, like that is their dream. That is the fondest dream that they've had for almost a century now.
Mm-hmm.
And but like once they go away, it's hard to get back. And the same can be true of your civil and political rights. And I want to bring that up in the context of like the other executive order that Trump made, which is basically says that they will deport foreigners on student visas who are at American universities if it can be proven that they took part in any kind of pro-Palestine demonstration. And obviously, I think that's evil and terrifying. But
yeah. Who's gonna look that up? Is it gonna be like a little snitch box?
Yes, it's going to be a group like Batar USA, run by a convicted sex criminal. Not a joke, not an exaggeration. He pled guilty to harassment for posting revenge porn of his ex-girlfriend on her company's Twitter account, among other places. I mean, it's a stalker who is now the executive director of a stalking organization that exists to provoke.
Glick.
Yeah, Ross Glick is his name. Brace Belden had a run-in with him a while back in May Day of last year in Washington Square Park.
That guy? Oh
yeah, it's that guy, the sausage-fingered like melanoma patient. He's
the worst.
The one who
Glick.
kept asking. What was the deal? He kept asking to see Brace's dick, or Brace kept threatening to show him. I forget what it is. It's a funny interaction.
Is your little angry little imp?
My penis is none of your business. I have an inch-long penis.
So why are you here for? You pro-Hamas, or you just in the park, just accidentally marching with these idiots?
I love these guys.
Oh my God! I'm looking at this person.
Yeah, it's hideous. He legit.
Wow. Sometimes it's the guy you most expect.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like, obviously, if like for the people, the foreign students who are here on a student visa who are being threatened and doxxed and potentially deported right now, this is terrifying. But the thing is, like, how many foreign student visa, like let's say they get every scalp that they want. At the end of the day, how many people is that going to be, and is that going to blunt the momentum and just the general shift in consensus on the topic of Zionism in Israel and the United States? I don't think so. Obviously, the end goal is to deport anyone, citizen or not, who disagrees with them politically. But once again, like, this is whether they're able to do. I don't want to fearmonger about. Like, I mean, it's a possibility, but I don't want to I don't think anyone should get hysterical. Should get worked up over that. At the moment, at least.
Well, also, you forget that a lot of this is finally kind of sneaking in really elite universities, and they're going to push back against it too. Like, they're not going to have the graduating Harvard class of 2027. Like, even with all the Zionism there,
6 kids.
Like,
yeah.
But they're not gonna like kick out those kids either. Like, they're just fucking like there's an elite. Like bourgeois solidarity that I also think would like people who don't even really care about Palestine kick in. And it's going to be like, not him. We're on the crew team together.
Like, there are also like, foreign students that are not at Ivy Leagues. And
no, totally.
I think like,
a lot more, obviously, but I'm saying like it would have to be so selective as to not be particularly enforceable. And like, we can't predict the future, but like one of the problems with like fascism is that you have to be kind of organized and have a good bureaucracy.
Yeah, you need federal employees to be a good fascist state. But more broadly speaking, like, I don't know what's going to happen with this tariff stuff. I mean, I would, when he came in, I was like, is he really going to do this tariff stuff? I mean, like, isn't anyone around him tell him how our economy works? But the thing is, like, like in trying to like, and what I've read about like what I think the analysis that makes the most sense to me about like what they're trying to change or what they're trying to do with this new Trump administration is like, for instance, Marco Rubio, the new Secretary of State, gave a speech this week in which he said he invoked the phrase multipolarity. and said that like we're no longer like the post World War II indispensable nation, and that pricked up a lot of people's ears. Like, oh wow, Trump is doing anti-imperialism and third worldism. No, I mean, but I think the point here is that like they're trying to I think that they believe, and I think like for their own purposes, not entirely mistakenly, that the post-war global order of U.S. military hegemony and supremacy backed by global free trade, the system that we created essentially to benefit ourselves at the expense of everyone else, that's what's holding us back. And it's holding us back in the sense that it's preventing us because like with that comes this phony, maintenance of like this moral justification for everything we do. And I think certainly post Gaza, as we're seeing now, they want to get done with that. They're done with that. And they want to return to like a more classical, like early 20th century, late 19th century, like great power imperialism, where the United States is like still the most powerful and wealthiest country in the world, but we're not an indispensable country, which basically means we can do what we want and we can act in ways that are more aggressive openly than we would otherwise normally be. And like, I think the thing with the tariffs is I just think they're looking for a shakedown from everyone. They're looking for rent. They're looking for the rent money, and they want to extort as much as they can out of any nation that's weaker than the United States. And they think that like, I guess that will, I mean, that will counteract China's rising influence.
Yeah, I really think it's interesting how much Trump has brought up McKinley, which I would love to know. How did he find out about McKinley? If anyone knows, please let me know.
Well, obviously he read a book.
Yeah,
he's by his nightstand every night.
Yeah, he whenever Ron Chernow book comes out, he is just the first in line. But I think it is an incredibly useful angle to look at not just this presidency, but like what at least one of the parties will push going forward, which is, kind of what we outlined during the 2020 primary, that there are two modes of us reconciling with this new world where we are not the preeminent, unquestionable superpower.
I was thinking about you, yeah.
Yeah. And that was that we could either have a negotiated withdrawal from the world and actually put some of those super profits into a safety net, similar to what countries like the Netherlands or the UK to an extent did.
The peacetime prosperity boom that usually follows any victorious nation in a war, like for instance, like Western Europe after World War II, like the peace dividend was never reinvested into this country after World War II. It was invested in the maintenance of a global national security state that has grown every fucking day since the end of World War II. And that's why all this Doge shit is so fraudulent, because if you're going to like audit every government agency other than the Pentagon, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't care whatever, like, pissant money is getting wasted here and there. It doesn't hold a candle to what the Pentagon's budget is.
Or if we're just addressing, like, actual fraud and graft at a gigantic scale that does both cripple the American economy to an extent, though it is also paradoxically one of the only growth sectors, one of the only things we make, is the vast waste and graft of the privatized American health system, which, of course, has less than zero salience as a political issue in America. But the other choice, that we laid out was schizophrenia. And the thing that was incomplete about that prediction at the time was that there were going to be two types of kicking and screaming, of not negotiating the decline. One would be, and we outlined this later, Joe Biden's, which is, having vivid flashbacks to the good times, and sort of like the equivalent of a toddler putting on his dad's suit, but the suit is that of Dean Rusk's, and you think you are a great Cold War liberal because
I Finlandized NATO, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in some cases doing these things that are kind of notable, like getting Sweden in NATO is, I guess, a big deal, but the idea that it would have any import to national politics in 2024 is hilarious. And that, that's one mode, like delusion and trying to relive the most idealized past that was never really what you think it was, clouded by senility or incompetence. The other is that we become Turkey. And that is the Musk-Trump direction. That we're still the greatest country in the world. We assert ourselves, but we assert ourselves much more nakedly. and with a much more brazen traditional style of nationalism and a much less obscured form of wealth abstraction. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people say that I don't know. They are acting like this go of things to recalibrate the American national security state in this way has already worked. I just would like to offer that, I don't know, I would wait until they have like any major foreign policy success. That is my caveat.
Elon Musk's brood and his sort of the fact that he's not fucking these women. He's using IDF. He's using the
IDF insemination.
He's using the IDF insemination squad to like gene edit his 13 male children, or actually 12. But there's a new one. There's a new one this week, and it involves a woman named Ashley St. Clair. Now, I got to ask, Jake, Thomas, or Felix, were any of you familiar with this woman before this week?
Yes, she used to post like racy kind of softcore stuff under a name Sex Laptop. And that was her like username. Like, you know how a lot of these people were either failed musicians or failed comedians or failed actors. Then that went to bullshit. So they just got involved in like saying brown people belong in a hole somewhere. Her thing was she was like I don't know if you'd call it one of those like Tumblr type softcore aesthetic nude posters. And then she like pivoted into doing like joking about doing like BBC, like, you know, mixed porno. And then that didn't go too well. And now she's like, there used to be, you know, batting cages in Atlanta, and now it's just Hennessy and fucking pancakes. And that's like her new.
She had one of those accounts that you would see in like 2014 or 2015 where all the pictures are in black and white.
Yeah.
And it's like very, who is that girl that Edie Sedgwick imitation photo style?
Mm-hmm.
But then you read the post and it's like someone had the worst parents ever. You know, someone had a sad child. Someone had a fucked up childhood. But then, this is very much a product of the time. That's sort of like BBC style posting.
Mm-hmm.
But they would. I always thought it was fun.
British Broadcasting Corporation.
Yes, Ashley St. Clair literally
BBC style posting. Sorry. Go ahead.
She like what I always thought was so, I don't know, funny, not funny, but like I guess like telling was that they would like use the name Tyrone for a black guy.
Yes.
Like no black guy has been named Tyrone since like the first time that starter jackets were cool.
Yeah.
Like you're more likely to meet a white Tyrone that fought in the Korean War than you are to meet like an under 70 black Tyrone. But she literally said, "Oh, I want a Tyrone to fill me up or whatever." And then, like, she didn't
clip that.
She became, what's interesting about her is like she was Sex Laptop and she did that thing, but instead of becoming like the typical politicization path for those types is like they become like a Milo type, like like the avant-garde of the right. But she became like a Babylon Bee, like Zionist, like neocon lady, which is, I think, way more interesting.
Well, I thought it was cool too that like we can get into the IVF thing later because I'm also fascinated by that. But like,
how does that even work?
He just, I guess, dude. Okay, first of all, I guess we'll just do it now. I thought he was using his fame and power to knock these women down, and I'm for that. He's mailing his loads to their house through like FedEx Priority.
So he, out of anyone who isn't an entertainer or athlete, out of any of that shit tier celebrity, he has more of an opportunity to bust raw in these women who had the worst parents and worst childhoods ever. He could fuck all of them raw. He could nut raw more seconds per day than anyone else alive in his tier of celebrity. And instead, he's like, you know what my favorite part of when I have sex is? It's the NDA negotiation process. Let's go straight to the part that's like signing up for Obamacare in 2013.
Just like him throwing the Romans was a sign of autism, him just like mailing ropes to fucking clout chasing right winger girls' houses is because he's on the fucking spectrum. Like I've always wanted to be a father, and I don't particularly when I think about being a father, it's mostly what's interesting to me is just mailing cum to girls' houses.
He says hello to them by paying them $20,000. Like it something I've been thinking about a lot recently is the idea of like a pervasive sense of extreme passivity in American society, and that as sort of like a marker of permanent adolescence and immaturity. Extreme passivity is like it's a huge marker of like sort of like young adult malaise, because it is a deep insecurity that your self-perception of your talents and abilities and charm and personality, if you proactively bring them out there, that it's either going to fall short or it's not going to be what you imagine it to be like, or otherwise will be a disappointment and nothing near what you built up in your mind. So you wait for the world to come to you. And it's interesting that, the most powerful man in America is doing this incredibly proactive thing of having 700 billion kids, but in the most passive way possible.
Yeah.
Giving these women $50,000 so they feel obligated to say hi to him. And he's like, can you have my kid? No, we don't. We're not going to have sex at all. In fact, it will be less like sex than anything you've ever had.
Ghosting a woman after you mail her your cum to put in her vagina is, I'm not going to lie, boss move. Like to just be like, because all of her replies you've seen are like, hey, Elon, we've been trying to reach out to you. And he's just not, like, he'll post 15 times a day about like, FBI crime statistics. But this lady who like apparently had his IVF baby, she can't get a text back. Thomas, you got to look on your face like you're like, yeah.
I mean, a lot of us were doing stuff like this during the pandemic anyway.
Well, I mean, doesn't this? I mean, like I've seen speculation about this, but like, doesn't the nature of these conceptions? Doesn't this introduce the possibility that like his dick is fucked up and mangled in some way?
That was floated on TrueAnon.
Yeah.
And also, Azalea Banks said that Grimes told that to her, that he had like a penile implant that went awry.
Dr. Miami did it. He's the one that tweeted about Elon's penis. It was like, we've just installed what we're calling the Tesla Model D. Have you seen these tweets? There were screenshots of them going around after Ashley St. Clair mentioned the whole baby thing. Apparently it was like 4 or 5 years ago, but it's like just got Elon. And it's probably fake. But if you buy the TrueAnon Azalea Banks story, apparently Dr. Miami put like a penile injection in his shit, I guess, for it to be rock solid 24/7 while he builds fucking space lasers. And I guess it went awry. Maybe his dick don't work.
I mean, like it's
I heard rumors of that though. Like I heard rumors of that going back a few years.
Yeah.
But I'd heard it was a robotic implant.
Maybe.
The sex workers would be like, yeah, it's this thing. You just have to act like it's cool,
like a Winter Soldier arm, like a fucking.
I think what he probably had was it was like a button or something, like a beeping mechanism, like from 2001 or something. Like I think he just had a little red button in there, maybe.
I like. He's like Jetstream Sam from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, where everyone thinks he's like this crazy cyborg because his personality is so bad, but it's just all natural mental molestation by his insane father.
I would love to be,
but he just has one cybernetic part.
I would love to, yeah. I would love to be the richest man in the world, and then I have a metal 4-inch penis.
I mean, it's truly the one thing money can't buy. If you've been cursed by God with a bad dick, there's really nothing that anyone can do for you.
Well, I guess it's not surprising, but all these other women that he did this to kind of had their own thing going on, like Grimes and one of the other, Google AI person, but fucking Ashley St. Clair, people were sharing screenshots of her like fucking neck deep in his replies, like the last 4 years, like with the meme that's like, go to horny jail, bonk, and then like, yo, what's up, Elon? Like,
Jake, I saw one of the worst posts I've ever seen, and it was this guy who was like, called it. And this was like a year ago, and it was a photo of Ashley St. Clair and Musk, and she was looking at him sort of adoringly or whatever.
Mhm.
And the comment that this guy left said was, "Methinks she will be intercepting his seed sometime soon."
Oh, God.
But what I mean is, like, it's a type, right? Harvey
Yeah.
Weinstein, no penis, and literally
Epstein
rotted
shit
off
was
of
like
him.
a
Epstein,
egg.
egg-shaped penis.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, robot dick that doesn't work, and now he's, like you said, sending frozen ropes through the mail to have only male children. But I do want to talk about the New York Post wrote this up.
Yeah.
They've got a. I just want to dive into this story a little bit. Right here. The conservative influencer who claims to have given birth to Elon Musk's 13th child revealed to the Post how she was driven to lead a life of secrecy after a whirlwind romance with the billionaire ex-owner. A whirlwind romance. In an exclusive sit-down from her glitzy Manhattan pad Saturday, Ashley St. Clair, 26, described the 53-year-old Tesla and SpaceX mogul as funny and down-to-earth, but claimed that he wanted to keep their baby secret for everybody's safety.
Dude, how absolutely gone do you have to be, like ketamine or like megalomania or whatever, to like, first of all, throw the shittiest Romans of all time? It's a bad salute, but he made it look like shit. And if we do the timeline right, that baby may have very well been like 1 month old. He's ignoring those texts. He's railing fucking big old gator tail lines of cat at the thing. In his mind, he's like, I'm not going to text this lady back, but what I am going to do is I'm going to throw out the old fucking seagull at the goddamn president. And this lady can figure out this fucking baby one way or another, but I'm going to get these, like, what happens?
A detail that I liked when I said gave an interview in her glitzy Manhattan condo or whatever is that in the New York Post there's like some, of course there are like sort of glamorous shots of her in it, including one where her toes are quite visible. But in my favorite one, there's one where she
I didn't see that one. Where did you see that one?
No, my favorite picture that accompanies the piece is it says she's like sitting at a table in front of these big windows, and she's got a chessboard set up on. There's nothing else on the table but a chessboard, and like. People who have the chessboard out that's a sign of a certain personality. But many people have pointed this out. If you look closely at the chessboard, the knights and bishops are in each other's spots. Like she's placed the pieces incorrectly, so that's smooth. But to return to the piece here, it says Musk has not yet acknowledged the allegations, and reps did not respond to multiple requests for the comment by the Post. He has made numerous unrelated posts on X since his alleged lover made the announcement. However, again, I don't even know if they're lovers.
Right.
We are waiting for Elon to publicly acknowledge his parental role with Ashley to end unwarranted speculation. And Ashley trusts Elon.
How is it unwarranted? Oh, yeah, this is just between a man, a woman, and the mailman.
And like, also someone pointed out, well, I think, and again, it's speculation or whatever, but like, if he only is producing like male children, then are they doing some sort of like CRISPR gene editing, like hard, I guess what you'd call like, genetic or zygote science? I'm not a fucking baby doctor, to ensure like how many loads are these women getting in the mail and then putting in their bodies, and then the doctor's like, this one's going to be a girl.
I believe with IVF, I believe with IVF you can select for gender.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that's maybe why he's only conceiving children through IVF, is because he doesn't want to pollute the world with more females.
Shout out Delaney on Twitter for reminding me, one of his kids' name is Techno Mechanicus. And that fucking sucks ass. That's really bad.
Awful.
And
really terrible.
Like even XAI112, like, okay. But Techno Mechanicus. It's like, you know that old Family Guy bit where Peter's at the addiction center and he's like, one of these kids is going to be Hollywood kid. And then who's paying for the rehab center, huh? Who's paying for, like, I wonder if that's his plan. Is one of them is going to be the bad guy from Looper? Like the fucking kid with telepathy that like explodes people? And that's who's going to like, take up his mantle for this like weird technocratic autocracy he's building or trying to build or whatever. And he's just using, like weird, profoundly mentally ill women to produce these men for him.
I think like the more like pertinent thing with why he's doing this is, it's like clearly whatever happened with him and his father, Errol, clearly something is going on here.
Yeah.
And he has some complex about both like outbreeding his father and only creating males and doing it completely removed from any sexuality or really any physical element at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Definitely one of the most mentally molested people ever. Ever.
I mean, like, one of the other aspects about his worldview is that he's like he's very like pro people having children because he's worried about population collapse and he's worried about the underpopulation of the planet, which would seem to be at cross purposes with only producing male children. Because like if you were concerned about the population collapse, wouldn't only having female children be setting up humanity better in the future? Because like if 99% of men on planet Earth died tomorrow, like the future of the species would be pretty well assured. But if the opposite were true, we would go extinct within a generation or so.
One of my favorite movies is Children of Men, and I'm imagining like that movie, but everybody's like either completely functionally illiterate or like a Groyper shut-in, and like Clive Owen is just he's trying to get to his buddy's place in the woods to get like canned food and water, and he just opens the door. Instead of this like sage, weed-smoking old philosopher, it's just like the most fucking pale, dysgenic blue light poisoning guy in the world, and he's just like showing him fucking like soy jack Chad memes, and Clive Owen just puts a gun in his mouth, and the movie just fucking ends.
Sorry, I can't go to work today. Music Graper died at the age of 18.
Yeah, exactly. Like it, like what? I don't know if people always talk about his worldview, and like this is why he does X, Y, Z. Like population collapse or like some weird thing. I don't know if he has a worldview so much as he completely operates out of spite. Like he hated the fact that there was an entire social network that mostly spent their time calling him a fucking weird loser. And, I don't know if people memory hold the fact that like 8 years ago, he was one of those weird Silicon Valley, like Har Krishna, Indian, esoteric, hippy dippy dudes. Like he was obsessed with like, karmic debt and like, we're all one species, that weird Silicon Valley type empty liberal progressivism. He got laughed out of those communities for whatever reason, and then in turn embraced whatever he's doing now. But it's all about it's spite. You know what I mean?
They probably saw his dick.
Yeah, they probably saw his weird fucked up penis.
Just to return to the post for a second, it says here, at the time, she didn't particularly have much interest in Elon other than his acquisition of Twitter. She first became aware of the billionaire thanks to her gay best friend, who frequently asked her to watch videos of Musk's SpaceX rocket launches.
Oh my God. What?
Do they mean pejoratively gay? Is that like Trump? Yeah, woke really is over. If they're her gay ass friend who makes her watch rocket launch videos. Like this is in the New York Times?
New York Post. This is the New York Post.
Oh, okay. I guess they've been doing that since Alexander Hamilton, started the paper.
He goes, and at one point he said, "Are you ever in San Francisco or Austin?" And I said, "I am in Austin and Texas a good amount for work," St. Clair continued, adding that she worked for the Babylon Bee, a conservative satirical website at the time. Yeah, that's a job that you really need to travel a lot for.
Yeah. You're writing fucking clickbait articles for my mom specifically. Did it ever say how they met? Was it like a fucking? I guess it doesn't matter. I don't know. That was the one thing I missed.
She says that he slid into her DMs. So she says Musk was very funny. He was smart. He was very down to earth. It started with X interactions, and he slid into my DMs. I think it was a meme. She recalled.
It really is the everything app.
Dude, what if you're able to eventually send your loads through there? Felix, I'm sure you were doing a little bit of that. Mostly just
I mean, like everyone who was, time to take accountability here.
Yeah.
Everyone who was DMing the sex laptop type ladies in 2015.
Right.
We also awkwardly, they what do those types of women request? Videos of you jacking off. Yeah, and everyone, around my age in 2015 was awkwardly setting up their iPhone 4C.
Yeah.
5C with the small blue one on their Xbox One. While doing that, and that really was like that was sort of the version. Well, who is the guy who? He did sort of like proto animation with those he did the first moving picture with that picture of the horse galloping.
Oh yeah.
that's sort of like that sending videos of you jacking off over Twitter DMs in 360p. That is to transcontinental load delivery.
Yeah, I'm
what
glad
that is to major motion pictures today.
Yeah.
So I would consider myself a D.W. Griffith to Elon Musk,
trailblazer.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
It says here, Musk allegedly provided her with a lavish apartment in the financial district where rent for a 2-bedroom can soar to nearly $40,000, according to Street Easy, and a hefty security detail, but no romance, St. Clair claimed. Quote, I was completely isolated during my pregnancy. Every part of my career and everything I used to do, I couldn't do anymore. I was told not to tell anyone, she claimed. Texts viewed by the Post between St. Clair and Jared Burchell, Musk's money manager, appeared to show that she complied with the billionaire's wish to be left off the birth certificate and to preserve privacy, security, and confidentiality. So it's like, sure. I'd love to sire. I'd love to give you my seed, but please leave me off the birth certificate.
He's
for security reasons.
He's like the equivalent to a Civil War reenactor, but for a deadbeat dad.
Yeah, I was about to say.
He's still giving her like millions of dollars and paying for her to live in a $15,000 a month fucking apartment and doing all this shit and all the embarrassment and all of the negotiation and the drama of like everyone knowing about this and him publicly picking his favorite woman he mailed his load to in Siobhan, the top of the mom bracket, publicly. But he didn't even touch her. He just loves the idea of being a deadbeat dad so much that he's doing the National Guard equivalent.
He's stealing valor from real deadbeat dads, like my dad. You know what I mean? Like, you used to just come in a lady and then move 2 towns over. You know, like, it's just classic. Like, I'm a truck driver. I don't really got too much else to do, so I think I'm just going to move 50 square miles east and I'll be all good. He's fucking creating this, like, it's ballsy to fucking, mail your load and then be like, all right, we're going to put you up somewhere nice. Don't text me. Don't call me. Don't put my name on the birth certificate. Don't reach out to me.
What is that old joke? I think it was like Red Fox, or it was in a movie where it's like, I don't pay them to fuck. I pay them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But he's doing that without any physical contact.
Yeah.
I don't impregnate them to have kids. I impregnate them to abandon them. I don't get it.
Do you think it's
so
like
fucking weird?
Like a side effect of that? I think we talked about it last episode we did together, of like everything in your life is optimized like a computer. You know what I mean? Like, these guys love optimization down to the second. Every, like, the minutia, granular day-to-day parts of their lives are all like, I mean, not Elon. Like, he just fucking posts and like does ket and fucking hangs out, whatever. But like, maybe in his mind, this is the most efficient way to procreate, is to fucking,
I mean, I do think if you have 13 kids and none of them are like even Jewish or something like remotely cool, I do think that is a Nazi thing going. Like, one of them has to be mixed in some like even trivial way. Like the girls from Hawaii or something, and it's like you're just like not mixed, but it's like, you know, something going. These are like all. It is 13 white kids with like different women.
Did you see Grimes was like posting replies to the videos of X and Elon during that big speech he was giving with Trump, and somebody was like replied and tagged her and was like, you know, what do you think about, you know, your son being like used like this? And she was like, less I wish that Elon wouldn't do this, and I've told him not to, but what can you do, sigh? And I was like, are you really replying Lesai to a video of your son in a room with like 5 different pedophiles? Like that? Like, oh, Lesai.
What do you mean, like, there's nothing she can do? Isn't she the mother of this kid? I mean, I mean, like, presumably I don't know. I mean, maybe Elon owns the family courts too, but like, I mean, doesn't she have custody of this kid? Like, doesn't she have some say in what
Elon Musk, at the end of the day, is a men's rights champion. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a father's rights, you know. So maybe he just...
I like that he just has this one kid that he just sort of has like a backpack.
Yeah.
Like, I take this around, I feed it. He's going to be great.
That one, I don't know if that's his most favorite or least favorite kid, because he doesn't like do activities with the other kids. The ones he made with Siobhan, the top of the mom's bracket, they're the only ones he's like, heart emoji to.
Yeah.
The nicest thing he's ever said to his kids. But with X, he's also using him as a Kevlar vest.
Yes, for sure.
Last episode, I said that he's doing the dead zone 24/7 with that fucking kid.
I buy the whole human shield thing because I feel like we saw way more of X after Luigi, sent Brian Johnson to Valhalla. I feel like you got to see way more of X, like on his shoulder, or like he's carrying him literally in front of his stomach.
Yeah,
like that is a weird way to carry a kid. I mean, like in general, and he's like waving with the fucking MAGA hat and his Occupy Mars shirt. Wearing an Occupy Mars t-shirt with a fucking Dylan Klebold duster, by the way, is an insane fit.
Yeah, I think I have to say, look, I don't support gunning anyone down, much less a public figure.
Of course.
But if you are the type of guy who guns people down, you've got to be so mad about him, just using the X human shield, because for a gunman, that type of center mass, it's probably like playing GoldenEye in real life. Like you just lock on directly.
Yeah.
Just one more detail from the post here. She says here, some Musk-obsessed fans apparently began speculating that she had given birth to the Tesla CEO's baby and began harassing her, both online and on the street, she said. There was a cohort of very violent stalkers who started threatening my toddler. They would send me photos of him with blood and that I would witness his blood-spattering death and saying I was Elon's whore, she claimed, fighting back tears as she referred to her older child from a previous relationship. Almost every relationship in my life would be bastardized and disingenuous because I couldn't tell them what was going on. My son has never taken a walk outside. In 5 months, I have never been able to take my baby for a walk. I was terrified someone would see I had the baby and it would get out.
Oh, okay. Like, how different does he look from any other baby?
But like 5 months of a kid just inside a house, like that's terrible.
Maybe he already has. Maybe he was born with a robot penis and it pokes him.
Yeah.
This like this would be inhumane to do to a fucking husky. She's doing it to a human being.
Like, look.
You know what? For this kid. I feel the way that scumbag basketball recruiters felt towards a 13-year-old LeBron. That's how the FBI division that recruits school shooters feels towards this kid. He's already getting offers from disparate girlfriends in daycare.
Yeah,
but like, look, I would just like to say here though that like obviously. Like you may not agree with her politically, but like, look, all families are different, and like certainly children don't need to be the target of like hateful vitriol. I'm just going to read the last paragraph of this piece. The mother of two authored the 2021 children's book, Elephants Are Not Birds, the story of an elephant named Kevin who likes to sing and then is convinced by a vulture named Culture that he warbles so well he must actually be a bird. The book was first published under a conservative publishing house, Brave Books, with St. Clair describing the story as an unapologetic rebuke of transgender acceptance. She was later tapped by the self-described woke-free beer company, Conservative Dads Ultra-Right, to appear in the company's Real Women of America 2024 calendar, which was released in December 2023.
That calendar caused a huge fracas online. In my community, in the Groyper community. I remember that.
What were you going to say, Thomas?
Oh, nothing I've already said to her personally.
I guess, like, we've pretty much, did a crash course on, like, where do you think she goes from here? Does she join the harem? You know what I mean? Like, does she, like, the kind of forgotten women that they're just kind of like Elon's broodmares?
Well, like, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I think this and Elon Musk and his sort of novel strategy for family formation is leading to a kind of, I don't want to say a schism on the right, but there are sort of two camps of like, one is like the more traditional conservative, ideology, which says that like the nuclear family is the only sort of form of family or child rearing that should be accepted, and that like what Elon and Ashley say, because like of what I saw, like Ashley St. Clair, a lot of her humor was just shitting on single moms, and apparently she's got a kid from another relationship, and whatever. But like I think what's unsaid here is that like as long as the guy knocking you up is rich enough,
Oh,
and can
yeah.
provide for the kids, then like they don't really have a problem with single motherhood, provided that you're white. But like,
Single, yeah. It only
just- I
matters
think
if
they just
if the
hate
dad's
poor
black.
people, not so much like families that are non-traditional.
Yeah, like if you like the big thing about the single mom hatred on like, is just if the kid is mixed. If you are a single mother to a white kid, that kid might grow up to be the new bedroom pop star in like 15 years. Maybe he'll be Alex G or Kurt Cobain or something cool, Elliott Smith. But I guess if you're like a mixed you're a parent to a mixed kid, a single mother, then you're kind of just cannon fodder for whatever. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Well, like I said, it's great to have the Scroungers Pod on the program. As we examine the special relationship between the United States and Great Britain, evidenced by today's visit to the Oval Office by one Keir Starmer. And I'd just like to begin with this write-up in the New York Times. The headline is, Starmer flies to meet Trump with a gift and a difficult message. Do we have any indication of what the gift is? Is it another bust of Winston Churchill?
Well, there's two gifts. There is the more personal. He brought some tartan for him because Donald Trump famously Scottish to commemorate that. But they also they're giving him a second ever state visit. No, nobody has ever had a second state visit in this country. No world leader. But the king loves him so much. And to be fair, Trump had a very weird response to it. Starmer brought a letter from King Charles, and Trump just said, am I supposed to read this now? But he did, and then he just concluded that he is a beautiful man, he said, with a beautiful signature.
I would love to see a close-up of King Charles and Donald Trump shaking hands, like the sort of the flesh melding of King Charles's sausage fingers and Trump's weird bruised sort of leathery mitts. Like
it would look like Tetsuo at the end of Akira.
yeah. I was thinking the Fly or something, but
I mean, to be fair, Starmer kind of has hands like King Charles, where they're just flooded with plasma. They look like they're
imagine a throuple between those. Like all three of those fingers just intermingling together. Like I might have to take my jacket off at this point. This is kind of getting a bit steamy.
I mean, like those are definitely shitty gifts by Keir, and like I've learned everything I know about Keir Starmer through you. Yeah. I don't believe he's probably ever given a good gift in his life. No. Like he strikes me like the type of guy, his son turned 12 and he's like, guess what? I got you Ron Chernow's amazing biography series on the famed Jewish banking family, the Warburgs. I know you wanted a PS5, but I think the Warburgs is going to be very big. But I would say America started this whole thing when O'Bungler gave Queen Elizabeth an iPod filled with his speeches.
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
Gordon Brown got
is a horrible
a bunch
gift.
of just DVDs at one point,
Yeah,
but it didn't work on the region.
Do you think Obama, like up until she died, Obama was sending her like his annual playlist every year and just be like, hey, Lizzie, it's Obama. Thought you might like to check out this guy, JPEG Mafia.
I think O'Bungler was like with Queen Elizabeth. He's like one of those guys who like sends you all his best tweets with no caption.
Yo, juice this.
Yeah, isn't this one good?
Yo, Liz, can I get a retweet?
It's a little different with King Charles because he feels like much more of a fleeting figure. He's presumably.
I mean, isn't he dying of cancer right now?
Yeah,
yeah. He probably won't survive the year.
Yeah, easily. He's got bum cancer, and they was suggesting that he was treating it with potions.
Oh yeah, he's really into homeopathy, right?
Yeah, he is, and he's very much against that type of thing, chemotherapy and whatnot. So presumably he'll be dead by dawn.
Oh my God.
Back to Sir Keir, though. This is right up from the New York Times from just yesterday. It says here, now it's Keir Starmer's turn. After President Emmanuel Macron of France navigated his meeting with President Trump on Monday, skirting the rockiest shoals but making little headway, Mr. Starmer, the British Prime Minister, will meet Mr. Trump on Thursday to plead for the United States not to abandon Ukraine. Mr. Starmer will face the same balancing act as Mr. Macron did, without the benefit of years of interactions dating to 2017, when Mr. Trump greeted the newly elected French president with a white-knuckle handshake that was the first of several memorable grip and grin moments. Unlike Mr. Macron, Mr. Starmer will arrive in the Oval Office with a pledge to increase his country's military spending to 2.5% of gross domestic product by 2027 and to 3% within a decade. That addresses one of Mr. Trump's core grievances, his contention that Europeans are free riders sheltering under an American security umbrella. To finance the rearming, Mr. Starmer will pare back Britain's overseas development aid, a move that echoes on a more modest scale Mr. Trump's dismantling of the United States Agency for International Development. I'm just going to skip ahead here. Mr. Mandelson said Mr. Starmer had a different style from Mr. Macron, who called Mr. Trump Dear Donald and tapped him on the knee, even as he corrected him on his claim that Ukraine would pay back Europe's aid. But Mr. Mandelson said his boss's less demonstrative approach would also be effective. The prime minister has his own personal relationship with President Trump that has been established over a series of phone calls and meetings, Mr. Mandelson said in an interview. Keir Starmer is a plainly spoken, straightforward guy who is perfectly capable of speaking truth unto power and doing so respectfully in a way that will enable the president to see what he and the U.S. gets out of any situation.
Say it with me, everybody. An ordinary bloke doing an extraordinary job.
I mean, I was thinking earlier when I saw them talking, it's not like Macron and Trump's relationship. There is a bit of I don't know. Keir just has got his tail between his legs, just accepting.
Yeah, he's very cowed.
Trump is being quite passive aggressive, quite rude. At one point, Keir was talking about Ukraine, and Trump just said, "Well, would you be able to defeat Russia by yourself?" Everyone in the room laughed at him, and Keir's just like, very, that's brilliant.
Yeah, he flustered and blushed and sort of just didn't say anything. Like, he's completely emasculated by him.
I didn't think that he would have such open contempt for him, because they've been on a Trump charm offensive for a little while. David Lammy briefed the media that when they had dinner, Trump gave him 2 scoops of ice cream, an extra scoop, because he liked him so much, he said. So they clearly thought they were getting along to some capacity, but their relationship seems largely disdainful.
That is such typical like Trump weirdness that like David Lammy, who like in previous years like did say, you know, a lot of things that were Trump's a Nazi, like things that were generally in like the left liberal parlance of Trump during his first term. And just for like whatever reason, I don't know, he thought he was Dennis Haysbert or something. He loves him. But then Keir Starmer, he's like, who's this fucking weird piece of shit?
For some reason, David Lammy has been courting J.D. Vance for years. They are evidently friends. Because he featured him in a lot of these promotional videos that they do. And J.D. Vance is a repulsive looking man.
I like the 2 scoops of ice cream as being like a positive indicator for how Trump feels about you, because Trump has long been known to sort of control the diets and food portions of those around him. You'll remember famously what he did to Chris Christie, where he left him at a McDonald's. Or that he wouldn't let him go to the buffet table a second time.
Yeah, he's like in Casino when Ace Rothstein is weighing the dancers, but with all these like dumpy 65-year-old men.
Well, I think Mr. Christie is worried that if he's over his weight limit, you'll fire him. He is right. I want him out. I want him out of here. He's an institution. That's right. He's an institution. He's fucking fat and lazy. Get him out of here.
I laugh every single day at that period after he'd won the election but not been inaugurated. There was a period where he wasn't on Twitter so much, Trump, and he just one night just posted an AI-generated photo of Chris Christie just fat as fuck eating McDonald's with drones dropping off Big Macs behind it.
Well, I do want to, before we get into talking about CPAC, I did want to talk about probably the biggest news story that we didn't get a chance to cover last week, which was the Trump-Zelensky Oval Office press conference and buck-breaking humiliation ritual. I mean, I know you guys saw that. So, I mean, what did you make of this spectacle?
I mean, that was one of the most brutal drawing downs I've seen yet, but I love that Trump was just talking like a casino guy. You know, he's like, you don't got the cards, okay? You don't have a full house, okay?
You're hoping to draw an ace on the river, but it's not gonna happen.
And Zelensky's like, I'm not playing cards, okay? This is fucking real.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw the highlights. Apparently, like it was like, I don't even know why I'm saying this. This is just like third hand. I'm describing a post, describing another post of a guy who allegedly watched all of it. But apparently it was going like fine, but a little tense. And then there was like a flare up over like Zell Disney asking JD Vance if he's ever been to war. And JD Vance was like, I've read about it.
Wasn't he in the Marines though?
You can. There are a lot of fucking pussy.
He was
he was
like a PR guy for the Marines.
Yeah,
right?
I see Marines all the time on Twitter who've only ever worked for think tanks. I think you can be. I think it's like like the Rotary Club. Like there are a lot of levels of participation. It's not like the old days where they definitely killed someone and they have a high interest car and they take 700 Percocets a day. You could be a Marine and be a real pussy now.
I think like among two TV personalities, because obviously Zelensky used to be an actor, like he was just coming and he was doing the NATO script. He was like, well, you don't feel the heat right now, but you will eventually somehow in the United States, like feel the long arm of Russia. And Trump was like, don't fucking tell me what I feel and what I am like. And that really pissed him off. So he turned it into like a punked. But I want to say Zelensky should have learned from the Kurds. Like, do not ally with the United States.
Yeah.
Cannot be trusted.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think that is the lesson to be taken away from this, because like, when you have like what seems like unlimited US backing, you can take a very hard line and you can like reject neutrality and want to join NATO, but like the wick on that's going to run out and then you're going to be completely left in the cold. And like, honestly, like I have to feel bad for Zelensky because like he has to go home now to a country where like half of the people in his government and military like absolutely will kill him if he tries to like end this war or negotiate a ceasefire.
Yeah, this was all like, I mean, exactly the course of like the last couple months here was very predictable back in 2022 for anyone who's paid attention to any U.S. ally that doesn't have favored customer status or a really annoying lobby. Actually, Ukraine has an annoying lobby, but not as annoying as the one that I'm referencing. Yeah, no, you would get screamed at if you pointed that out then. But yeah, no, it's like, I think you're heartless if you don't feel like a little fucking bad for them at least. Like shit.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It sucks. It fucking sucks. And like, yeah, this is sadly like a predictable path for US allies without favored status. But it's like, they got rid of their fucking nukes. That's the real thing. You just never get rid of your nukes.
I mean, I think the real star of this TV spectacle was, of course, Marine jughead JD Vance, and like I saw a lot of people being like, he showed what American masculinity is like.
He looks like he has ALS.
He was
like every time I see his legs.
Don't talk like that to Dad.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of horny posting about JD Vance. And you know what? You can make fun of it, but given how many people have compared my looks to JD Vance, I say keep the horny posting coming. This is the new look that we're all very hot for. But I gotta say, he sounded like, I mean, speaking of relationships, he sounded like a girlfriend when you forget her birthday. Which is like, have you ever thought to say thank you?
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you?
Today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Yeah, that's the same tone of voice when like your girlfriend's friend gets you the like most passive aggressive gift of all time. When she gets you like a book on how to quit vaping. You're like, oh, thanks. I'm already having so much fun at my birthday party where it's only your friends.
Well, like I said, it was a quite a TV moment. But like, I once again with Trump, it's just like it all seems so grotesque. But like, really, he's just laying bare what U.S. policy has basically always been.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like, I mean, it's just like the fact that it's happening to Ukraine and not a government in South America or Africa, I guess makes it feel different this time. But like, this is just like, he's just putting it all out there. I mean, at least I guess you can call him a lot of things, but I suppose, dishonest on this account is not one of them.
No,
I mean,
it's
yeah,
like, he's showing like you will be prey to my personal whims.
Yeah.
It's whatever the fuck I say and not otherwise, and that might change from one day to the next. And Zelensky like was just going in there like, okay, well, let's keep this thing going. But Trump is just, everything is very personal for him. So
It's just weird though, because it's like there is all this posture about like, how he didn't say thank you, and he like did a bad job at Ukraine, and it's all his fault. He fucked everything up. But then like Trump will say, and I was the first guy to send them javelins. And if he doesn't like get his act together, I won't let them fight the war anymore. And it'll be a new guy fighting the war. So like after all this, he after the mineral deal, after everything, he's like, no, I'm still gonna like do the Biden policy, but we're just gonna have this weird thing where JD Vance makes him say thank you to Donald Tusk.
And also, I got to say a special shout out to Lindsey Graham, who was like doing selfies with Zelensky 5 minutes before this fucking Oval Office encounter, and then like as soon as it was over, he was just like, Zelensky's a disgrace. He didn't even wear a suit to the White House. And I gotta say, like, it is such a stupid complaint, but like, if I was in Zelensky's position, I would probably put on a suit.
Like,
you know,
I have to, like, if you're meeting fucking Donald Trump, if I was being brought to the White House because they're executing me, like I did something really bad. I gave a cartel some uranium. I blew up one of the most beloved Trump grandkids. I was playing with my gun and I shot a red barrel and Kai Trump exploded. And they're like, we're gonna behead him, and everyone's cheering for me, for my death. I would spend I wouldn't get a lawyer. I would spend my last money on a Brioni suit. So when Trump saw me, on the news, he's like, now that's a sharp looking guy. And
Didn't
then
Trump,
I'm all the way on my way to a pardon.
Trump hit his kid for like dressing in the baseball outfit instead of a suit at a game.
Yeah.
So it's like, saw this one coming.
I have to say, it's like I have always kind of disliked that about Zelensky, because it's like, okay, if your country's invaded, sure, but when it's like, okay, I'm going to Israel to ask them for some Israel stuff, it's like, you're staying in an embassy hotel. You don't need to wear your war sweatshirt.
Yeah, people used to dress in like cool uniforms with like a bunch of medals that they didn't earn, And this is like the kind of like everyman war general look. I don't know.
Well, it's like the new style of operator, where they all have their own coffee brand, and they this is operator shit. This like crew neck and like cargo sweatpants shit.
Death Squad coffee.
Yeah,
this coffee will have you filling a mass grave in no time.
Cold press gang.
Very good.
I am become meme. Yeah, pretty much. I'm living the meme. It's like there's living the dream and there's living the meme, and it's pretty much what's happening,
Julian, but before we get too far into the news, I do want to talk about your trip to CPAC the other week. Now, I'm glad someone was there covering it. I feel like CPAC this year just crept up on me, and I had no idea what was going on. But was very glad that someone was there in, as I've mentioned it before, the happiest place on earth, the Gaylord Convention Center in Maryland. Julian, from your writing on CPAC, and I want to talk about the current state of QAnon as well. But like the thing that came across to me was that as compared to the last Trump administration, when Felix, Matt, and I, when we visited CPAC, it seemed like the first Trump administration CPAC, it was a happier affair. And even though like they're sitting on top of the world right now, like the impression I got from your coverage of the second Trump term CPAC is that they're all really angry, and like even though they've fulfilled their grandest wishes, politically speaking, they seem very uneasy and upset and angry. Am I correct in thinking that?
a lot of revenge seeking. And I feel like that is the difference between who Trump appointed this time around. Last time it was like a bunch of useless people that he kind of fired, but this time it's like anybody out for blood. You know, the ice guy was talking about how they're bringing back some of the good old boys, like people who were fired for being too fucking wild even for ICE. So they're deliberalizing all of these empire kind of tools, and I think that is the main thing. It's like it's an internal argument over whether we need the carrot in the carrot and stick configuration of the American empire. Do we even need the carrot? Fuck the carrot. Why don't we just get rid of USAID and use the money for force?
And I know like certain fissures have arisen between the MAGA right, which is like totally dominant, and more traditional conservative Republicans over a number of things, like, more traditionally neoconservative hawkish Reagan Republicans don't like his appeasement of Russia. And I guess more like, morally traditional people don't like his, carnival of porn stars and pimps and sex traffickers that he keeps parading around the White House. But like, Julian, can you detect any tensions or fissures within the MAGA movement itself?
No, actually. I mean, there are so many inherent contradictions, but I feel like that is what we're just getting better at kind of shoving aside, because everybody has essentially a fictional subtext to whatever they're experiencing, right? So there's what's being said on stage, and then for like someone who's super into QAnon is like, oh, well, yeah, they're talking about the storm. And then for someone who's a bit more of a Reaganite, it's like, oh yeah, that's good. They're asserting, American geopolitical dominance. So everyone's filling in the blanks, and I think that's one of like the main things, is that everybody's yes-anding now. And currently, I think the fissures are they're not going to show up until revenge has been taken. That's the main thing. It's like, fuck these liberals. We put up with it for 4 years. We're going to, get Comey. The J6ers were there and they were talking about that. I mean, one of the women said the hunters have become the hunted. And there's this idea of like, well, now it's our turn to use, the guns and the power and the judiciary system, and we're going to use it against you guys now.
In general, just with presidential politics, it does seem like the fractures are much more evident the thinner their margin of victory is.
Yeah.
Because, then individual factions of the coalition that can command larger swaths of votes can extract more out of the president and, his sub-factions. And we did see that a lot with Trump 1, that there was this push and pull between both the more traditional Republicans, the Jared and Ivanka people, the evangelicals, and then like the Bannonites. But yeah, this time, well, when you win the popular vote and there's a clear majority, then there's a lot more breathing room for everyone, even if those, special interest groups or pressure groups can't extract the same things out of the president.
Bannon followed Musk, and like he had I guess commented that Musk was an illegal alien and that what he was doing was, shit. And then, what he called them on stage was like, oh, it's going to be hard to follow like this genius, this Superman, So even if he's kind of, I think, being a bit bitterly false about it, but it's like, I feel like they've all agreed now is the time to assert power and not argue about how we feel about each other, even though Bannon can't help but being a catty bitch.
I do kind of wonder, just because, I mean, I don't know if people have seen the Fed projection, but it's already 1 point shittier than it was yesterday, like a 2.9% contraction in Q1. If, the logical conclusion to austerity happens and the economy really takes a shit, I anticipate that it's going to be like a Bush 2 type thing, where it's like, everyone is just going to be stepping all over each other to say, well, I knew it was bad pretty early on.
Yeah, it's not looking great. I mean, the president was pumping some of the shittier crypto coins over the weekend, like Cardano and XRP.
And Cardano?
Yes.
What the fuck is Cardano?
Exactly. It's let's just put it this way. David Sachs has a bag.
The strategic crypto reserve is one of the most insane, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to a world in which Social Security is a Ponzi scheme that cannot be relied upon, even though it's paid out for 90 years without fail. But meme coins are now a strategic asset, strategic economic asset of this country. Like, how would a strategic crypto reserve even work? Usually, what were they going to tap into it if a Dogecoin collapses?
What if the government needs to buy Molly on the darknet? There's currently no mechanism for them to do that. It's like the only plan besides, just like looting the treasury for fucking David Sachs and every other member of the All In podcast is like just looking at Argentina and going, how about that, but worse?
Yeah.
How about we become super Argentina?
Mm-hmm. Julian, did you get to see Milei at all?
I did. He had a really poor performance as far as his speech went. He had his reading glasses on, kind of tilted down over his nose, and he was just reading his speech the entire time. So, and even then it was in Spanish and they did the live translation. People loved it, but they mostly loved it because he handed a big chainsaw to Elon Musk that he had, I guess, like custom engraved for him.
Milei, he's interesting to me because he really wants to get in good with Trump, obviously. But the first sort of communication he had with Trump, it was like a video conference thing, I think at another CPAC. And Milei was like weeping during it. And I think it really grossed Trump out. Like, he does not like that. But it doesn't surprise me the crowd liked him because Milei, someone pointed this out that his speech is very, you see the translations are like, you can't give leftards anything. They're shit. We have to kill them. And that sounds so good in like Rio Plata Spanish, like a language where you trill your R's.
Yeah.
We open a bit, going back to Zelensky and everyone shitting on him for not wearing a suit to the Oval Office. How come Milei doesn't get dinged for not cutting his fucking hair as a world leader? Like, how can you be a world leader in good standing with the United States government and have a fucking mop of hair that looks that stupid?
Milei looks like every the type of kid that's clearly autistic, but the mom is he's just quiet. He's bitten every teacher he's ever had, but it was all their fault. Like Melissa George's kid in The Slap.
Put him next to Musk, though. Musk comes out with a fucking toy gold chain and sunglasses and a t-shirt. And backstage, my favorite little detail was that in the green room, Milei did a kind of gifting to him of the chainsaw, which they then recreated on stage for effect. But there was this point where the camera crew that wanted to film the moment that was probably with Milei walked in with him. And you just see Elon Musk, he's at the craft table. And as he turns around, he's slipping on the glasses. I really have a feeling that he didn't want anyone to see his pupils.
Yeah.
Someone did get a shot of his eyes peeking through his big glasses, and they look insane. I don't even think he's taking Molly. He's not acting like a guy on Molly. I think it's he's taking super Ritalin. He's giving something they give to the worst kids ever.
Yeah, it was interesting because he clearly could not speak coherently. It was outrageous. And the interview was so obsequious. The guy was like, "Oh, what's it like to be in the brain of a genius? What's it like to do so many things all at once?" That was very literally a question. And he ended up mumbling after I don't know how many seconds of umming and ahhing. He was like, "Oh, it's a storm." But while he was trying to get that answer out, there was an older woman in the audience next to me, and she turned to her friend and she's like, "He's such a genius. He can't even speak."
Yeah.
Oh, which again, that's perfect. It's there's so much yes ending. There's so much generosity of interpretation. I love it.
Well, why didn't they ever try that with Biden? His thoughts are too brilliant to reach his lips. He's concocting this amazing theory on world systems, but what actually comes out of his mouth is President Trump.
Julian, I mean, I love that you describe it as like everyone is yes-anding right now because, like, when QAnon became a thing and, like, through your coverage of it, I think, like, the most interesting thing about it was that it was like this collective auto-fiction project in which it was telling a story, but each person reading the story could contribute to the story, and, like, the story would become part of their lives, and that they could create the narrative as they were reading it. Like, you could, like, decide what happens next because it's all this, like, meta self-referential like hodgepodge. But, like, in second term Trump CPAC, I mean, like, what has happened to QAnon? Is it a matter of QAnon? Like, because you said, like, there's way less explicitly Q branded things, but isn't this just a reflection of the fact that QAnon has just succeeded? Like, I mean, the storm is here; it's arrived. The Great Awakening has happened. Like, so what utility is it? And, like, how do you describe this evolution and, like, these, like, the people now that they have power?
I will say that there was absolutely no QAnon t-shirts, not even a sticker. So the label is gone. But I was talking to some J6ers that were in the back of the room because they started basically interacting with the press back there when Trump was speaking. And I spoke to one guy who had written down his information on the back of his prison federal ID, but he had written it in ink on plastic, so it was kind of smudged. But I could see that his username was Crumb with a Q. So I was like, hey, why do you spell Crumb with a Q? And he was like, oh yeah, I'm a follower of Q. So I kind of asked him a couple of things. And one of my questions was, like, do you think that the storm, like, has come true? And he just pointed to the stage and he said, it's right. He's right there. So it's like this idea of, obviously it didn't happen exactly like we thought. We didn't get the executions. We didn't get the military tribunals. The very first Q post was Hillary Clinton will be arrested within 48 hours. Obviously that did not happen. But they're kind of, since they can do this yes-anding or this, like, creation of a kind of fictional subtext, almost like adding a folklore story to whatever's being said on stage, they can interpret it however they want, right? So the person on stage will say one thing, and what they're hearing is, the storm is here. And I think to a certain extent, everybody is doing that now, right? It's like we're all becoming very, very good at cope creative writing.
Yeah. Q is, it's like they're writing Lost together in the final season.
That's exactly it. Nobody knows where the fuck it's going or how to end it.
But you are right also, though, that, like, to a certain extent, that is all understanding of politics, like pure wish casting. Like, on the Democratic side, I think a lot of that, like, when the Musk Trump rift comes in a week, a year ago.
I think people also ignore the fact that Russiagate was born at the same time as QAnon and was basically a mirror narrative. It just had, like, tonal differences, instead of, like, military tribunals and executions, it's like the FBI will do a great job and this person will serve their time in jail. It was like a more fair, liberalized version. But we've been fucking splitting off into, like, these creative writing exercises more and more. And I feel like liberals also recently, with the assassination attempt, the amount of people that still think that was staged, and then the amount of people that turned on the mainstream media and said, we actually have to, like, start listening to podcasters and, like, independent outlets because these people have it in for Biden. Everybody is as paranoid and as, like, you got to do your own research as QAnon, I think, like, presaged. Essentially, it was just like a kind of freak strand that was like a good shot across the bow of, like, this is going to be how we all deal with the fact that none of what we want is coming true.
Yeah.
Because QAnon was created as, like, Trump is not doing what I need him to. So what does that mean? Well, he's fucking doing 5D chess. Same way as that fucking tweet where it was like, Biden talking about, like, the Finlandization of NATO or the NATOization of Finland. I can't remember, but that guy who tweeted, like, oh, this guy doesn't have a PhD in, like, foreign, it's like it's just like you see what you want to see, and we need to think that these people are not just up there melting and bumbling. They actually have a secret plan.
Well, you know where the 5D chess meme comes from? The tenure of the O'Bungler. Yes. And it was a way for Obama bots to deal with the kind of first term that O'Bungler had, where it's like a stimulus bill that's just like all tax credits for like Exxon Mobil and shit. And, and it was another kind of proto Q thing. Oh, just wait for second term Obama. That was a huge fucking thing on like Vox and all those places.
And then it was like, wait till lame duck Obama. Then when he's really unleashed, he has no fucks to give at this point.
Remember that Key and Peele sketch?
That was the sort of like hinge point of the what was his name? The Time for a Game Theory guy, Eric
Garland.
Oh man,
Eric Garland. That was what that entire thread was hinged on. Was people think Obama is doing nothing after Russiagate happened. Well, Trump is going to be executed on January 19th, right before inauguration.
I mean, Steve Bannon, remember he was supposed to be executed for treason?
Oh yeah, it gives me no pleasure to say.
Yeah, it gives me no pleasure to report this.
I'm pro-life, so.
Yeah. But Julian, what I'm interested in is like now that QAnon has at least the branding has receded in and like has been washed away by like just the politics of just being in the White House. What has happened to like that first generation of like Q influencers, like people like the praying medic, Liz Kronkin, and even General Michael Flynn? Like, have they been also displaced by like a new brand of influencer? But like, how are they metabolizing this evolution?
I feel like they were always about the brand, right? They were like, QAnon is what we're pushing. Whereas I think the people who've kind of like Marjorie Taylor Greene, or even actually Flynn, even though he didn't get a spot in the current administration, probably mostly because he was yelling at Trump to put in martial law, I think, like at the end of his last term when he lost the election. But he must have pissed off Trump somewhere in some back room, I'm sure. But Kash Patel appeared on like more than 50 like episodes of podcasts from some of the most bizarre like QAnon independent media outlet things. And he knows what it's for. He knows that it's just a mechanism to kind of encourage people to write the fictional aspect that will allow them to continue supporting you. And he knows that these are some of the best soldiers. But like the digital soldier thing, which was coined by Michael Flynn, everyone now is a digital soldier. And I feel like everyone's in an information war. Like Alex Jones has won. Like we are just fighting over narrative now. And even if I'm wrong, like there's no point pointing that out because you're giving a point to the other team. Like you're letting the other team win, right? It's not at all like, there was that whole liberal phase of like fact checking and shit like that. Now it's just like, no, like we need to get our word. It's like Coney 2012, like awareness campaign stuff. We need to win the hearts and minds because everyone has resorted to like, well, if there's no material change, like the best we can do is win the PSYOP, right? Like the best we can do is win like the hearts and minds of our own population now.
Do you want to be the person humiliated by the ritual, or do you want to be the person running the humiliation ritual?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Whose side are you on anyways? Like that is a universal feeling now when there's an argument online. It's no longer like, well, is that true? Or does that make any sense? It's just pointing fingers. And I think that is the true legacy, is like both this creative writing, like fictionalizing, like folk storytelling that we're all able to contend or all able to participate in. But also it's like posting for the hearts and minds. Like we are information warriors online, and this matters. The discourse matters, because otherwise what does matter? Because I think we do feel even worse than like during O'Bungler, that we're just like further and further from the levers of power.
Another one of the lasting legacies of QAnon, I think, is our widespread cultural obsession with and hysteria over pedophilia and human trafficking. And like, I'm wondering, like the thing we started talking about the show, the Conan O'Brien joke about Kendrick calling Drake a pedophile, like with like this current moment of like the Drake Kendrick beef, which is like consumed popular culture for the last year, is all over accusations of pedophilia. Like, would that have even been a thing were it not for QAnon? And like the other thing that like you make clear in one of your pieces about this is that like the net result of this has made like actually prosecuting people who abuse children like a great deal harder in many cases.
Oh yeah, absolutely, of course, because the real way that people are trafficked is just so far from anything that is shown even in like the most kind of sterilized version, which is like the Sound of Freedom movie, that kind of stuff. But definitely the QAnon vision of like how children are trafficked is insane, you know. But Felix, I wanted to ask you because I felt a bit like damn, you know, I predicted it in my piece or something, because Meek Mill, I think a few days ago, posted, I have a new song coming out called Pizzagate.
Got his finger on the pulse, I see.
Oh man, he's just always coming in at the wrong time. Just unconditionally.
That's it. You like look at the Kendrick and like, you know, you're like, well, he's making it work. He had a fucking Grammy, fucking Super Bowl. I guess I'll just go full QAnon. You know, that's like the dumb guy's logic. But I do feel like, yeah, the fact that now the debate is like, you know, was this or wasn't this a demonic ritual? Anytime anything appears on television.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly like normalized thing now. We're just doing 80s satanic panic constantly.
And also, like as like part and parcel of like this folk storytelling and everything now is an info war and a psyop. If you don't like someone or disagree with them, just call them a pedophile or a groomer. You can do
Absolutely.
it. Like, yeah. What are they going to do?
Yeah. I mean, that's also, I mean, Donald Trump really pioneered that. It's like, just say the thing. Just fucking say it. What are they going to do? You know? And once you realize that there's no bumpers, it's like, fuck it. Just go for that. And like, who would ever defend a pedophile? You know?
But like, I mean, like one of the things that like your piece about this current CPAC makes clear is that this is, I mean, it was true when we went, but it seems like even more in your face now that this is just a carnival of jubilant cruelty, I think is the phrase you used. And like, I can't help but think about this, you know, this like obsession with rape and pedophilia and human trafficking. There's a distinct flavor of like wish fulfillment fantasy in like the people most obsessed with this. Like I do get the impression that they're like, we have to stop illegal immigrants from like raping and kidnapping women because there are women and that's what like we're allowed to do to them now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like we've been doing cope about like America, because if we keep telling ourselves that the United States is a good country and that we want a fairer, better world, whether you're conservative or liberal, there's got to be on some level like a subconscious thing of like, well, what about like the fact that, you know, we founded it on genocide? What about all these horrifying things we've been doing abroad? And you know, the fact that we allied, you know, in Afghanistan with like boy rapists and we ran all these black sites. I think that we're just kind of seeing, we're seeing like the fruit of empire, the mental toll that it eventually takes, where, you know, you start to fantasize because you're looking at like a beautiful, I don't know, Walmart or something, but underneath that, like we can sense that something rotten is afoot and that maybe this is not right. Like whatever this is, maybe it actually isn't good. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, my neighbor's probably a pedophile, you know, like I think it is like a way of coping with the fact that like, are we the baddies, you know, kind of,
I don't know. I mean, like, I think like in a lot of cases, people do definitely like underestimate how much culture is downstream from politics. And there are a lot of like very direct and sometimes very indirect, weird knock-on effects of like, you know, having an empire that isn't explicitly called as such. But I don't know. Like, how many like local news pages have you ever followed on like Facebook a few years ago? Because I do wonder if this is just like the natural state for a lot of people.
Yeah, just the
that
kind
this
of,
is just what like this is just what you do when you're bored.
Mm-hmm.
That you're like you work yourself into a frenzy. Like I bring up local news pages because like I have a distinct memory of like going on Facebook in 2012 and seeing people like you know there are pictures of them with like their family, their kids, their workplace, their full names, where they live. And there would be like a news story about like, you know, someone who committed like not even like a felony robbery, just like shoplifting. And they'd be like, we should hang this piece of shit.
Yeah.
We should like, oh, I can't wait till he goes to jail and gets raped.
Yeah.
And I don't like, maybe that is because of, the underlying horrors. Or in a lot of cases, I do just think that's what you do when you're bored.
Well, I mean, it gets back to this like auto fiction quality to all of this, because I think like the truth of the matter is, for like the American Western middle classes, life has never been like safer or less dangerous. And I think that kind of drives people insane. And I think they need to like create a sense of like, of invigoration in their lives by creating all these fantasy contexts for like violence and immiseration and human degradation and torture. Like, it's just, you have to sort of goose yourself to keep getting out of bed every morning in your safe, boring life.
Yeah, it was Sebastian Gorka during his speech that like played footage of a bombing in Somalia of like jihadists, and his whole kind of talk around this was like, President Trump is now in office, and we told him we've been observing this Somali jihadist camp, and it's like, well, why don't we kill them? Well, Joe Biden has been observing them because he actually loves them. Of course, he loves these beautiful jihadi Somalians, and then it's like, his like punchline was Trump going, "Kill them," and then he showed the footage of like a guy crawling a mountainside, just disappearing into a big fucking plume of smoke, and people were cheering like crazy. But even for him, I don't think it felt real, because the way he compared being in the Situation Room under the like the West Wing it was like being on an episode of 24 or in a Jason Bourne movie. So even the people doing the kind of horrifying violence, I think feel completely removed, and also even understand their relationship to it through fiction, through movies, through TV.
It would be so fucked up to be like killed partly by Sebastian Gorka. I mean, like, the American Empire is a lot of things, but chiefly among them ignominious. Just like a horribly undignified author of your death.
Even like the incarceration aspect was interesting, because there's this whole Salvadoran mega jail that like Nayib Bukele has set up and said, hey, you can send your people over here, and apparently the plan is, and we'll see how this goes, but even like some American citizens technically would end up there. And what's interesting about that jail, once you look into it, is that there's no rehabilitation program at all, and there's no release date for anybody. It is, you are thrown in here and you will never see the light of day. They don't try to rehabilitate you. They don't try to like make you exercise or there's none of that. It's just, put them in jail, throw away the key. And the exporting of prison, that would be a new low.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they actually that prison that they started ostensibly because of like the gang problem there, where they're just like doing these dragnets where they pick up like tens of thousands of people and just declare that they're in a gang, either because of like tattoos or whatever. It's they wanted to build it, but Bukele said, well, it costs a lot of money. The only way we can get a deal is if we let an American private prison do it and like skim some off the top. And it's I mean, kind of the logical endpoint of this entire system.
Well, I mean, I think about whether it's the prospect of incarcerating American citizens in the Salvadoran super jail, or I mean, I'm just saying here, just like something I saw before I started recording. This is just marking that Iowa Republicans have just ended civil rights protections for transgender Americans, and this was like after they had passed laws banning discrimination in housing, employment, and education if you're trans. So this would be like markedly removing the civil rights of people after you've already recognize those civil rights in a very short amount of time. And I think when I think about like you said, this carnival of sort of gleeful sadism, is that I think for these people, freedom is something that's experienced by their ability to take away the freedom of other people. Because I think it's just like when you don't have freedom or authority or power over your own life, and chances are you probably never will, then like this is the next best thing. And I think like when people on the right talk about freedom and liberty, I think it should always be understood in that proper context of like my individual freedom to oppress and take away the freedoms of other people I don't like.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Matt thing of like free real estate, and if we run out of it, we're going to have to find some way to assert and take. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it does feel like the logical next step, but it's pretty fucking weird.
Okay, we're back. And topic for today is tariffs, NASDAQ, the markets, the global economy, crypto, all things that I know I'm way out of my depth talking about and hate thinking about. But good news is we are joined by someone who fits the bill. Joe Weisenthal of the Odd Lots podcast is with us this week. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
I'd like to begin with tariffs.
Yeah.
I'm just going to begin here with this is a headline from CNBC. Trump rejects pleas from business for more clarity on tariffs. They always say that. I'm just going to read here a little bit. It says the S&P 500 fell 3.1% for its worst weekly marks in September. The Dow fell 2.37, while the NASDAQ composite shed 3.45. At the center of the storm were Trump's stiff 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, which were initially paused for a month, then restarted Tuesday, only to be reined in Wednesday, and then partially paused for another month on Thursday. So, Joe, I'm just going to begin. What is this? What are the status of these tariffs? And what do the markets say when what do they mean when they say they want clarity from Trump on this?
Yeah, I mean, these are both really excellent questions. And so my understanding is that as of today, most of the meat of the tariffs have been postponed yet again. There are some tariffs in place somewhere, but most have been postponed yet again. But this has been a very strange and, I think for the market, difficult rollout, because I think, at least if we're talking about in the context of Canada and Mexico, which is the big surprise here, everyone sort of knew the tighter trade against China was coming. I think there's some ambiguity. It's like, what exactly is Trump asking for? I think there's clear unclarity about that. In theory, if the tariffs are in place and they're set policies, then businesses can begin to make a plan. And so if they say, okay, we supply this or we source this from Canada and it no longer makes sense to do that because of the tariffs, then okay, we can start the long multi-year process of perhaps building a factory in the United States or something. But none of that could really be done until they know exactly what they're going to look at. Because to actually respond to the tariffs in a meaningful way from the business perspective, if they're going to take the multi-year plan and allocate billions of dollars to build some new supply side capacity in the U.S. to avoid the tariffs, they're not going to want to do that unless they know, okay, these are in place for the long term, et cetera. So I think when you ask about clarity, what does that mean? Businesses always say they want clarity. They want to know what the rules are. I'm making air quotes, et cetera, because you hear it for years. That's simply what that means, that you don't want to make any investment plans until you actually understand the nature of the trading.
Joe, that is something I've been curious about. You see that from a lot of the Trump boosters, the Sean McGuire types who are saying, why would anyone be against increased U.S. manufacturing capacity?
Yeah.
And then when there's sort of this typical Trump one pattern of a flare up, then a mutual drawdown, and then it looks like the original policy is going to be put in place in an incredibly diminished capacity, they'll turn around and go, everyone was freaking out about nothing when they were just saying 2 days ago, we're going to completely remake the American economy. But to take them sort of at face value here with the original purpose for these tariffs, the protectionist idea for them. Has anyone ever done that? Has anyone ever pulled that off where they have this consumer economy that really relies on a strong currency, cheap imports, cheap consumer goods, and then they turn around and they make it a producer export economy.
Yeah.
Presumably with no central planning, because it would be under an absurd austerity regime. Has that ever happened?
I mean, I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but the main reason that the answer is no is that there's never been an economy like the United States before, just in terms of its sheer wealth, its sheer power, its sheer size, etc. I think, look, I'll say two things. One is that, there certainly is a track record for some developing countries, for example, of protecting domestic manufacturing, infant industries, so to speak, and then becoming manufacturing export powerhouses and protecting their local, their local champions, the local players. And I think there's a lot of success stories. Typically, people point to East Asia as an example of this. But to your point, and you said it, is like these typically come with a plan. In addition, in the successful instances where a country has become a manufacturing powerhouse, there is some sort of real plan such that the investment domestically has a chance of succeeding. So, for example, they might say, okay, we're going to protect this local car maker or this local sneaker maker or whatever it is, and you're going to sell them to the market. You're going to export, and we're going to subsidize you. And the way we're going to subsidize you contingent on your proving success in foreign markets. Because the one risk, obviously, when you're protecting local industries is that they just take public money and they just give it all to shareholders and they just get fat and happy and they don't actually do anything. And so one way to protect this is you have a handful of companies that are all competing and you say, okay, go out into the world, sell your goods, and whoever gets the biggest market share in Europe and the United States and Japan, etc., will provide you with more cheap credit, etc. And those of you who can't compete overseas, we're going to leave you to die. And that way you sort of protect against against the risk of corruption and cronyism, etc. So there are examples of that working. There are also logical examples why any country might want to just have more manufacturing domestically. And I think there's like two distinct categories that I can think of. One is issues of sort of like national security things where you have some sort of existential danger if you were cut off. That's arguably why we have the Strategic Petroleum Reserve back when we didn't produce much oil. You could imagine saying like, you know what, we really need to have a factory capacity in the United States to produce PPE equipment, which we obviously lacked when the coronavirus hit. So you could say these are areas in which it would be really bad not to have domestic manufacturing. And then the other category you could say is, well, we really want to have domestic manufacturing at the cutting edge of tech, particularly, like things like semiconductors. There's like high margin, very crucial for having a sort of advanced, rich economy. It's really important that we always maintain some sort of lead, have national security implications, etc. Like both of those are sort of, to my mind, logical reasons why you might want to not have the sort of classical views of free trade, so to speak. But when we're talking about treaty with Canada, or in Mexico, this is the part that I'm having trouble wrapping my head around. It's like, I don't see many categories in either. I don't see many categories that are either the sort of like critical for national security that Canada is making, that we have to make here, nor do I see the sort of cutting edge, high margin stuff that's also really important here. So it feels like we're in sort of, to your point, uncharted territory.
Yeah. Like prior to these really big blowups, I mean, with Mexico, I kind of feel like Sheinbaum has a very good handle on how to handle Trump, at least for that.
She seems very skilled, yes.
Yeah, she's very canny. She has pulled I'll get some guys to look into that move on him repeatedly. And it just, I always think that's his move. How does he keep letting her do it? But, with Canada, this is less so the case. But before that, one of their big explosive moves was it was increasing tariffs on Taiwanese chips, right?
Yeah.
And that, initially, I kind of thought the same thing I thought with a lot of their actions, which is why are you just gutting all the benchmarks of post-war prosperity? This entire thing that was built for 50 years. But then, you actually think about it, and it does kind of make sense from that perspective. Like this idea that we would protect our own, a nascent chip industry that would theoretically, not be over there and couldn't just be overtaken by someone else. But with Canada, it's like, what
the funny
possibly, yeah.
So the funny thing that you mentioned, and I totally agree that Scheinbaum seems very skilled at managing the Trump relationship in a way that, like, now Trudeau isn't there anymore, but like, obviously Trudeau and Trump are like on very different wavelengths. The funny thing though is this was like, this has been the best thing that's happened for the Liberal Party in Canada because, they were getting killed in the polls. It certainly looked several weeks ago that at the upcoming national elections that the Conservatives, led by Pierre Poilievre, were going to win. And now they're being rewarded for taking maximum hardball. So they're free, there's, typically you would think there is this danger, like the leader has to stand up, but they risk to the economy. And so they play this game of chicken, but they don't really want to hurt their economy, etc. And then that makes sort of negotiating difficult. It actually looks like the Canadian side has had a very easy time with the negotiations because they're getting rewarded so politically to play maximum hardball. They haven't really offered much of anything, and they've been pretty comfortable going tit for tat. The Ontario leader, I forget the title, I don't know, Doug Ford, he's been totally in alignment with the Liberal Party, even though he's a conservative. He announced there's going to be a 25% tax on Canadian electricity. And so like Scheinbaum seems to be playing it well from the Mexican side, but actually the Canadian Liberal Party seems to have it very easy because they're getting rewarded in the polls for just refusing to budge on anything.
Yeah. I mean, like going back to the policy on the whole, it does seem emblematic of like a very specific to Trump too issue that they're having, which is you kind of see it in all their signature policies that they're kind of split down the middle. Like,
yeah,
Israel, it's sort of like Israel policy. Like, on one hand, they are doing at times like this George H.W. Bush, Reagan type thing where they will treat Israel like any other American ally or vassal or proxy, and it will drive a lot of people in Israeli politics absolutely nuts. But then on the other hand, it does seem like they're accepting policy dictates from like Betar or like someone insane or like Miriam. With this, it's like the trade policy is, on one hand, it reminds me of like those people who they're like 37 and they're like, yeah, I think this is the year I get my shit together and I start a family. That's what America's saying, that we're going to start a domestic chip industry that replaces Taiwan's capacity. That is the national equivalent of that.
Well, keep going.
Then on the other hand, it's this weird, like, the only explanation I can give, but at least that's coherent, right? Like, you kind of get what they're going for. On the other hand, this Canadian Mexican policy that you've talked about, it seems like Trump just like remembered that in 2016 he won partly on NAFTA and thought, oh yeah, NAFTA, right? I should those two countries. Let's do something with that.
Yeah, I mean, the tensions within this administration on economic policy in general are extremely stark. And one thing I've been thinking a lot about is in 2016, the markets liked Hillary. So, when it looked like Hillary was doing better, the markets went up during the campaign. When it looked like Trump was doing better, markets went down. The night of the election, famously, stock futures plunged once it became clear that Trump was going to win. And then, of course, like that first Trump administration was like a very normie Republican. They did a tax cut, and that is about it, right? And like the stocks did great during his administration. It was pretty, and there was probably deregulation. When he won this time, you just had everyone on Wall Street sort of like, okay, we're going to get the tax cut, and we're going to get deregulation, and we're going to get liberalization of merger and acquisition rules. And everything just went through the moon for a few weeks. Every stock, every crypto, et cetera, which we can talk about later, it all shot up right afterwards. And then it's been like this reversal. Interestingly enough, the new FTC chief has kept Lena Khan's merger guidelines in place. So it's not clear that we're going to get a sort of liberalized M&A regime. But then also you have this year, like they're gonna like push for maintaining the tax cuts. But outside of that, this would not be Wall Street's number one pick by any measure of where to start politically. It wouldn't even be the tech industries. There's like various stools. There's the Wall Street backers. There's sort of tech people who really came around to Trump and Trumpism over the last several years. I don't think this would be any of their priority, the tariff stuff. But this is where it's beginning, and you sort of, see the reaction. But I do think it, like, from day one, it was obvious that there were going to be some like very deep economic splits in preferences. And from my perspective, like this was always going to be the story of like from the podcast covering the next 4 years. I didn't quite expect it to be so stark right at the beginning of the administration.
Well, Joe, a point you made recently that stuck out to me was that obviously in MAGA Part 2, leaders, American firms and the people who work for them, we saw an article in the Wall Street Journal and Financial Times, they feel very liberated now that wokeness is over and they can speak freely about calling people gay retards. But however, this freedom, it doesn't really seem to apply to like them openly sharing their opinions on Trump's tariff policies.
No, it's funny. Yeah, like if you ask a CEO right now, and I've watched financial TV over the last several days. If you ask the CEOs, they're really careful with their words. Like you would not think that they've suddenly entered into a land in which they could just sort of speak their mind freely without fear of reprisal. Like they're very, well, we need to see more clear what the goal is here, and of course, it's very, very awkward, uncomfortable, practiced words, and they don't really say anything. Look, can I read their minds? No. I can strongly guess the vast majority of these CEOs hate the tariffs and think this is terrible policy. But very few are going to just say that. They're going to, they're being very careful.
Well, I mean, when this administration was incoming, I wouldn't say I was excited about this, but I was certainly interested to see what the promise of these tariffs, like, would that be fulfilled? Because heretofore I had assumed that like something so fundamental to the structure of global free trade and the U.S. economy, I assumed things like that were sort of removed from democratic consideration.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like that question is still sort of open because like what's going on here? Like they keep announcing it and then they keep walking it back. Like you can take what they say at face value that like they intend these tariffs to, raise billions of dollars to offset, money that they're not raising through taxes. And then it will also stimulate reshoring American manufacturing and things like that. But like, it doesn't seem like there's much of a plan to accomplish the second part of this equation. But I guess I'm wondering, like, can this be seen? Is this a promise or is this a negotiating tactic? And like, how does this relate to a concept that you've talked about on the show? Oral intuition is a concept you quote from a Jesuit scholar here in terms of like what is one to make of these pronouncements and then like the sort of the fizzling out of what it implies.
Yeah, one of the funny things about Trump, I think obviously, at this point, everyone sort of recognizes that I was extraordinarily gifted at communicating in the year 2025. That he had, for many years, he's had this sort of ability to get his message across to the public in a way through sound bites, through slogans, through insults, etc., in a way that's just like uncanny, and he's funny, and most politicians just can't pull it off. And one of the sort of like hobby horse head ideas that I've had, the world is becoming more oral. In the age of pre-literacy, you think Homer, etc. You think, okay, everything has to be rhythmic, repetitive, viral, because if it's forgotten, then it disappears. And so virality in the sort of oral age was required. And that carries with it all kinds of interesting implications of how people think. But there was a quote he's in Trump in 2016. He was asked, he was like, something about bashing his opponents. And he was like, oh, is that presidential? And now people don't really ask him that anymore because everyone's sort of gotten over that. No one. But he's like, well, I'm winning. I'm winning the race for the presidency right now. This is March 2016. He's like, therefore, it's presidential. This idea that, like, if you're the president, it's presidential. And so you think about many people would look at the back and forth on the tariffs. Say, they would say, "This is crazy. This isn't how world leaders are supposed to behave. This isn't how presidents are supposed to behave. Presidents are supposed to be steadfast and resolute, and they say one thing, and you have these various adjectives and characteristics that you associate with what that term presidential." And I think to Trump, he doesn't really buy that because he's the president. He won. And so he is per se presidential. And so all of this back and forth stuff, which again, I'm not sure it's a good, other people can decide whether it's a good negotiating strategy. I think to him, in sort of they sort of different logical framework from which he's thinking, from which his mind operates, that is presidential. Now, I want to go back to something you said at the beginning of your question. There is this tension on the tariff that's really interesting, which is what are they for? So let's say they were in place. There's one argument that it's a revenue raiser. And so you have this idea we're going to have tariffs or we're not going to have the income tax. I sort of doubt that's plausible, but setting it aside, that's a thing people say. And then there's the idea, well, if we have tariffs, then we're going to rebuild U.S. manufacturing. But right now, it's not really clear what the goal. It's not clear that those can coexist. I mean, for one thing, if you imagine we consumed everything we bought here, we stopped importing, then we wouldn't have tariff revenue anymore, and then that wouldn't be a very big source of revenue. Wouldn't be able to replace the income tax. So, that part of the indicator and part of what's perhaps confused Wall Street and many others about the tariffs is this idea of we don't even know what the goal is for the U.S. economy because the administration themselves says different things. Yeah, I think that makes it it's all very ambiguous, let alone, speaking of goals, we don't even really fully know the ask of Canada. Something to do with fentanyl, maybe, but it's not really clear what the deliverable is for Canada. Because okay, I'm satisfied.
Well, if Russia invades, we want to be able to make our own fentanyl.
Joe, before these tariffs are announced, how would you describe the economic relationship between the United States, Canada, and Mexico? And conversely, what would be some of the goods that we would see really affected should these tariffs be instituted?
Sure. Well, I would say there's sort of two main things, which is one is the big auto companies all have supply chains that crisscross the borders, in some cases several times. So you could imagine, for example, I'm just making this up, you could imagine a steering wheel and then it crosses the border somewhere else to get the airbag put in it, and then it crosses the border somewhere else to get attached to the thing that for the windshield wipers, whatever. They have very complex supply chains across the borders multiple times, and that includes both Mexico and Canada. If you go to Ontario, a lot of auto parts companies there. A lot of U.S. companies have factories, in some cases for final assembly, I believe, in Mexico. So that exists. And then the other big one is a lot of things related to agricultural goods. And so some of that might be fresh fruits and vegetables coming up through Mexico. Some of that might be grain or meat coming in from Canada. Dairy is obviously something that we get from Canada. And then things like potash. So that's important for fertilizer and growing. So it's really, and then from Canada, obviously, oil and electricity. And there are certain pipelines that come in from Canada to get oil. I think those will be exempted in any tariff regime. I don't think there's much political appetite to just sort of mechanically raise the price of oil because you see that in the price of gasoline. But yeah, it's basically a lot of things related to do with auto and then some energy commodities, and then a lot of agriculture.
Joe, I don't want to let too much time go for it. I have to ask you about something that I'm genuinely baffled by, and that is the announcement of an American strategic crypto reserve.
Yeah,
first of all, the idea that crypto is a strategic asset, I don't know what even to say about that, but this to me seems the equivalent of if the railroad or oil barons of a previous era got to start their own bank that was capitalized directly by the U.S. government. I mean, the only difference being is that oil and railroads are useful to the economy. What is this strategic crypto reserve? Under what circumstance would we have to tap into the global strategic crypto reserve?
What if we're at war and we need to buy Molly?
I mean, I have no idea. Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis has been talking about this idea for a while that, like, we need the U.S. should be stockpiling Bitcoin because of Bitcoin specific, Bitcoin was going to be the new, the new reserve asset in the future and something. Honestly, it's hard for me to articulate the logic because the logic is so far fetched to me. I mean, but actually, like
I can articulate the logic surrounding tariffs, but like this is something where my analytic capacities fail me.
Yeah, because it's like, we're hedging against the collapse of the U.S. dollar. But then if the dollar collapses, like, what are we all doing here anyway?
I mean, should the U.S. government be hedging against the collapse of our currency? It seems like something like...
I mean, this is exactly like the right question, which is like, you're thinking like, should the U.S. government be hedging against the collapse of the U.S. government? Because, right? That's actually what it's just like, what is the scenario where like that makes sense? Like, because that's really what you're saying. Like, a currency doesn't just collapse overnight; it collapses because the government collapses. And so, it's essentially you're saying, well, we need a hedge in case the U.S. government collapses. But I would rather the U.S. government not collapse or take steps to avoid a collapse, rather than. So I don't really understand anyway. But this idea has been out there, and but to their credit, not all of the Bitcoiners have been championing this idea. Then the crypto industry writ large obviously really got into swarmed around Trump over the last several years. And so then he put out this tweet in which he named some others, and he said, we're going to have XRP and Solana, which it's like, and Cardano and these random coins. And then over the weekend, David Sachs, who is the crypto czar, came out with a tweet and explained it. And it's going to be two things. One is that they're just going to consolidate various coins that have been seized over the years in criminal seizures, and they're going to hold on to them. All right, that seems whatever. Like, they want to give it a name. It probably does make sense on some level to like have all of these be organized and put together so that they can keep track of it all. And if they want to call it something, whatever. There also is a line in there about they're not going to buy any more Bitcoin. So in the end, it's not like some huge reserve that's going to hedge against whatever. It's a fairly modest sum, but it's worth several billions of dollars because there have been a lot seized over the years. But then there's been a line about how deficit neutral means of further acquisition. And I don't really know what that means. So I guess they're saying one thing they're not going to do, they're not just going to go out and like borrow money and buy Bitcoin or, use tax dollars directly to buy Bitcoin or whatever. So, okay. But like, could it mean like some gold gets sold for Bitcoin? I guess it's conceivable.
There is no more gold. There is no more gold. It's been replaced by shitcoins in Fort Knox. It's all meme coins now.
They're starting their own dark web drug market, I guess. That's what it means. I mean, like, this is such a Bobby Axe move. We tricked them. We destroyed the US dollar, our own currency. But we went long on Bitcoin, which for some reason is responding positively to the reserve currency of the world collapsing.
Right.
Like in what fucking universe does America is it's over. But Bitcoin through the roof.
This is actually interesting. There's an interesting phenomenon, which is that like some people were fairly bright, they'll be like, oh, Bitcoin has gold-like properties. It could be a new global reserve currency, kind of like gold, etc. And
it holds value because people have decided it's valuable.
Yeah,
that's how it's like
whatever.
gold.
But the interesting thing is that Bitcoin, as a thing that trades, does not trade anything like gold. It trades like a tech stock. So if you overlay a chart with a Bitcoin and the NASDAQ, they don't look tremendously different. And so when, I talked about that post-election rally, everything went up, and then you can see it all sort of peaked around the same time. And this has been a phenomenon for a long time where, like, at least on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis, cryptocurrencies more or less kind of look like stocks when you chart them against each other. And so even if theoretically Bitcoin has these sort of inherent properties that are gold-like, and other people can have that debate, there's no evidence in the market that they behave as such. And so, to your point, like every time there's been some sort of like big collapse in markets, March 2020, when the coronavirus really hit, is sort of the most obvious example. Every time when people are feeling like, oh, there's existential risk here, we're really worried, Bitcoin has gone down. There's never been a period that I can recall in which people are like losing their minds, running around, like, oh, I'm selling everything. I'm selling my stock. I'm selling my bonds, but I'm buying Bitcoin. Could it happen at some point in the future? Anything can happen, but there is no evidence that as a trading or as an investment asset, it behaves in the way that they claim.
I'm just, by the way, this is me saying this. This is not Joe saying this. It's hard to see the crypto reserve, as it's called, as anything except like a David Sachs enrichment project. When I look at the actual utility, that seems to be the only case, because all the stated reasons and goals just seem pretty self-defeating. Besides that,
it's certainly he claimed that he had like divested a bunch of stuff, I guess, but we'll have to see. But like, I will say this, like the idea of like the president of the United States, like tweeting out specific tickers of random coins, I kind of get the Bitcoin thing, or I kind of like, there is a world in which, not the reserve, but there is a world in which I could see why the president is talking about Bitcoin, like if I strain. But like when you see the president of the United States like tweeting about, Solana and Cardano and all of these, yeah, it's very good for an industry that's been very, very good to him over the last several years.
Yeah, I never want to hear about Solana again. Like the other ones, whatever. Solana is like a currency in a free to play game. I never want to hear about it. I hate the name. I hate how it looks.
So I got a quote here from Trump over the weekend. He said, quote, "From this day on, America will follow the rule that every Bitcoin knows very well. Never sell your Bitcoin." That's a phrase that they have. I don't know if that's right or not. Who the hell knows, right? Like Trump doesn't know anything. He understands cryptocurrency about as well as I do. I just think he knows that like people who love crypto love him and give him lots of money. So he's like,
you know what I think is like, here's some great, I mean, look, this is another one of those things where like Trump has pretty great intuitions. Someone tweeted, so I forget who, after the announcement that like, if you don't know what like Cardano is, like go ask your taxi driver. Your taxi driver knows what Cardano is. And actually, like, I think that's spot on. Like even like people within the crypto industry or like big crypto influencers, the VCs who take crypto seriously, like, like the co-hosts of the All In podcast and so forth, they like denigrate, they'll sneer at Cardano. So, that's not a real coin. No one's building on that coin, whatever. But if you go out like in the real world and, talk to your barber, they've definitely heard of Cardano and they're into it. Trump, I think he could put like his mention of those. Part of it is like, to your point, like, yes, many in the crypto industry professionally will like his support for the industry, but there's something even further, actually, in which I think he has his finger on the pulse of the average person out on the street who has some money in crypto.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I Felix, I don't think we have time to talk about UAE. Do you mind if I just bring it back to like just two quick hits from back here in America? Just a little palate cleanser because this episode was extremely grim.
Yeah, no, go for it.
I always like to talk about two things that happened domestically in this country this week that I would like to address on the show. The first is everything's computer.
This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer.
It's all computer. Everything's computer. The Tesla auto sales room on the White House lawn, I gotta say, was, again, like, unfortunately, you do have to hand it to him. Over and over again, Trump just keeps creating these singular images and moments and turns of phrase that so perfectly capture what modern America actually is that, like, it's like a perfect diamond bullet fired into my head. It's It's like Apocalypse Now. But like, his Tesla's stock price dropped 40% over the weekend, and then they had this like auto showroom where it's like, they're fantastic cars, and then he gets in one and he goes, "Oh wow, it's all computer."
He hated it.
Yeah, no, he just
really,
yeah.
It is really not up his alley. That was incredible. I mean, have you seen that video of the first person I saw post it was Michael Hudson, where it's he's driving with Melania she's recording it. She's in the backseat and Barron is in the front seat with him. This is like 2013. And he's listening to the song Blank Space by Taylor Swift.
Yep.
One of the most like surreal, dreamlike videos I've ever seen. I love.
I couldn't even believe he was behind the wheel of a car.
That's what, I mean. That is the most dreamlike aspect of it.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like a Rolls Royce, and you could tell he just hates all the like touch screens, the way that everything's like a little higher, a little lower, the hardness of the seats. He hated the shit out of it, but this was obviously one of those things where, mathematically about like a third or a fourth of people who love Trump hate Elon. If you just look at their respective approval numbers. And I guess this was like, this was them trying to cut the Gordian knot here. A third of people that love me think you are the most annoying piece of shit ever. Why don't I say your car is great? Well, it turns out your car sucks, but it's computer.
It's computer. And I bring this up because, look, I'm guilty of this. Like, my initial instinct on this is that Trump is going to get sick of Elon in about a week's time. I mean, like, I got to say, I have to eat a little crow on that one, because if he's willing to put up with this shit and like, and just let another rich guy big dick him like that and like turn him into like a crazy Eddie.
Crazy Eddie. His prices are insane.
What can I do to put you in this Tesla today? I don't know. Well, I gotta talk to my boss, but he never done this before. But he's willing to knock 10% off that True Coat. I mean, there's something else going on here, and I don't expect the Trump-Musk relationship to sour anytime soon, despite my initial erroneous assessment of how that might play out. I mean, how do you feel about that?
My assessment of it, like, initially was that Trump likes the fact that Elon is like a lightning rod for all the criticisms that are happening. I mean, all of it seems to like squarely be focusing on like Doge, the brunt of it. But I mean, to like dive head first into it like this, to make yourself joined at the hip. I mean, what was he talking about? Like the Chinese think in centuries, we think in quarters. And he was positioning that as a positive thing. Like maybe,
some people when they play chess, they're thinking 5 moves ahead, but not me. I'm thinking on the next move. That's the most important one.
Yeah. Some people play chess. I play checkers.
like I know he's dumb, and then we say that, but then he actually, but no, like some things he might just be like, I don't think he's thinking ahead. I think he's just like, oh fuck, oh Elon, yeah, your stock's tumbling, buddy. I'll help you out, and then not thinking about what comes. Like, oh god, this
Yeah, I think you're right. The prediction that they would have a grand falling out very early on, I really don't think that was the worst prediction in the world, people who made it, because it does follow a pattern, certainly. Of course, like Musk is an aberration to that pattern because he just, it's the same reason why Trump has not had like a big public episode with Miriam Adelson, in part because he thinks that she's Warren Zevon, but also, she's giving him like, $40 million a month to his PAC or to fucking whatever, right? Like, they are necessary to maybe not his political project, but his project of getting $40 million. I think, though, if there is like a fracture, the thing I said a little while ago was that if there is a fracture, it won't be on Trump's end, him initiating it. It will be because Elon is so... I mean, you saw that thing where he got booed at the Dave Chappelle show and he was like cutting himself. He's really good. Some people are able to like withstand 100 million, 200 million, however many people hating the shit out of them. Trump is one of those people. Elon is like really not.
I mean, it goes back to his dad abusing him and like telling him that he's a worthless piece of shit for getting beat up at school every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think he eventually, like, the realization that he is the lightning rod and he's getting the shit end of the stick publicity-wise, because he used to have, like, Obama-type favorability, much to my chagrin, and now it's, like, Bush in 07. It's, like, 30 fucking 65. It's really shitty, and I think that will... I could see him doing something rash or stupid. I could see him in, like, 2028 being like, I've just realized how stupid racism is. Like some bullshit profound thing. We're all made from the same corners of the universe. We're all made of stars. What difference does it matter if one star is a different color than the other? Something repellent like that. Yeah, we're all from Africa. We're all from Africa by way of the universe.
They call him Brother Elon.
Something like truly gross like that, where he's like, I condemn Trump. Because he's done it before. He was on Trump's business council, and then he was like, after getting yelled at, I've realized that he's bad. Back when he was woke, like not that long ago. So I think look forward to that when he does that. And one of the only J6 pardon people who is not returned to prison for killing a cop or abducting a child will blow him up. And that is my prediction.
All right, and the final thing I want to talk about, like, I mean, like this pairs so nicely with it because it's like I'm thinking about like in a bad like comic book about like a dystopian future that was written in the 90s that was like really heavy-handed, really leaden, you know, where it's just like America's a dystopian nightmare. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like
a cyberpunk hacker, Ajax Milktop, is, you know, bringing it down from the inside. So it's like in that version, like the White House is just a car dealership. Like, what is America? Giant car dealership. What's the other really like ham-fisted like dystopian satire that you could like paint about the world 2025 in the year 1992? What is America as well? Burger. What is our health? What is the Secretary of Health and Human Services? What's his job? Promoting burger, or rather, promoting beef tallow. The shit with RFK Jr. just essentially doing ads for Steak and Shake because they've now claimed that they're frying their fries in tallow.
Yeah, I love the American health movement because it's like, oh, are you going to take on like agribusiness or like the horrible way that we process meat or like the quality of the food? No, we're going to make fries yummier. That's all the whole beef tallow is just how yummy the fries are. It's the same thing with fucking Mexican Coke. How much better for you is cane sugar than fucking corn syrup slop? You know, it's probably like
tastes better.
It tastes better, and it's, you know, on a long enough timeline, it's probably better to have the real thing. But you're still not supposed to like drink it every fucking day.
I've been drinking 5 Mexican Cokes a day, and I'm doing fine.
Wait, hold on. So the fast food companies were making fries less yummy for no reason?
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be supporting that?
Well, I mean, the reason is because it's cheaper to use seed oils.
Of course. I'm sorry, I don't know how the Steak and Shake business runs.
I'm pretty sure Steak and Shake gets the fries delivered frozen, pre-fried in seed oil, and then they just reheat them in the fryers with tallow in it.
Yeah, that is more than likely what's happening. But it is like, I remember seeing people who were like, you know, I think some of our arcade stuff is stupid, but it's good that someone's talking about health. And it's like, yeah, that's
telling people to eat burger and fries.
Yeah, he's literally.
He said it was good if everyone got measles.
He's like in his capacity as a cabinet secretary for Health and Human Services. His announcement is, guess what, everyone? Fries taste better now. Like, fucking crap. You're right, Will. This is so much like a not an A-tier anus like Preacher, but like one that no one remembers, where it has my favorite convention of 90s graphic novels. A fat guy sarcastically reciting the Pledge of Allegiance while smoking a cigar that he lit with money.
Except instead of George Washington on the dollar bill, it's Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the Pledge of Allegiance is like, I pledge allegiance to the United Shareholders of Corporations.
I'm right. I feel like we should write this comic.
This is such a good idea. Yeah. Oh, I love stuff like that. That's like my favorite genre of stuff. Is things from 1993 like that, where it's like I
love that we can hear the ice cream man in the background of this.
There is this fucking ice cream truck that goes by my street 5 times a day. It's 45 degrees outside.
Yeah, but it was 60 degrees yesterday. So.
No, I don't know. Whatever.
Get your beef tallow. Frozen beef tallow.
That type of like Gen X stuff where it's like the protagonist sees like a Nike billboard and then he just writes like "fuck you" on it. Like that's I don't even know what you call that genre because it's so specific to like a 3-year period of the 90s. But it's my favorite thing.
Well, we're living it.
Enoscore.
Enoscore, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is a politically confusing day for me as a long-term enjoyer and defender of Steak and Shake. That was my go-to late-night burger place in Cincinnati. So this is my own personal, I'll still keep eating that garbage.
I've never had it. Is it any good?
I thought it was pretty good. Good shakes.
Steak and
decent
Shake
burger.
is good.
Yeah.
It is good. And the one bad experience I ever had there, it wasn't really it was their fault because they didn't hire enough servers, but like it was just packed. I was with my family in Ohio for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe we were banished there or something.
Maybe you and I were at the same Steak and Shake for some reason years ago.
Yeah, it took like 120 minutes for them to like get to our table, and it really upset me as like an 8-year-old. But they did as like a consolation because our server felt bad about it. She left the syrup dispenser at our table. Yeah.
There, in my hometown in Illinois, I remember outside of the Steak and Shake, there was for some reason a bronze statue of Roger Ebert. I don't remember what it was for, but it was directly related to the fact that it was a Steak and Shake.